For those of you who wish to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, please do so. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we'll be starting up in about 5 minutes. got it? The, whoa. The town clerk tells me that we do have a quorum, and I will acknowledge publication and proper service of the warrant, and I'll invite town meeting member Vana Priestley to lead us in singing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, and I'd like to invite town meeting member Kaylee Bennett, who's the chair of the Indigenous Peoples Celebrations Committee, to read the land acknowledgement.
Sio. Sio. Didani Latsti. Hello, welcome. Thank you. As we gather today, let us take a moment to acknowledge the history of this land we call Brookline. We are living on part of the unceded land of the Massachusetts, Nipmuc, and Wampanoag peoples, whose traditions, language, and stewardship continue today. These communities are contemporary and vibrant and exemplify the strength and resilience of Native Americans across the country. Today, we are living on a land that was taken by force. By the late 17th century, the colonists in Brookline allotted almost all land that had been inhabited by Indigenous peoples. Land was not the only form of theft. Brookline historical records state that in 1675, during King Philip's War, Metacom's Rebellion, 7 Indigenous and Black Indigenous men were sold into slavery in the Caribbean. These men represent the early histories of African descent, and Indigenous enslavement and indenture in this region. By 1746, enslavers claimed ownership of around half of all Brookline land. We acknowledge this theft of land, culture, and lives that occurred here. These early policies set the stage for centuries of systemic racism. As we remember this history, we must also recognize that a land acknowledgement, at most, represents words of respect. The second step of this acknowledgement is to actively support these Native American communities through meaningful dialogue, relationships, and informed advocacy. Local organizations you can directly support include the North American Indian Center of Boston, United American Indians of New England, Native American Lifelines, and Baguaso Rematriation Project. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I'll turn the podium over to our town clerk, Ben Kaufman, to swear in all town meeting members who've just been elected.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I invite all newly elected and re-elected town meeting members to please stand. And if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all of the duties incumbent upon me as a town meeting member, according to the best of my ability and understanding, agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution, the laws of the Commonwealth, and under rules, regulations, and bylaws made under authority thereon. Congratulations and welcome to town meeting.
And now it's customary for us to remember the town meeting members, former town meeting members who've departed.
As we gather today, we remember the town meeting members who we've lost this past year. Betsy Sher-Gross, Adrienne Levy, Sherry Mattel, Jerry Parker, and Michael Robbins. May their work not be forgotten and their memory be a blessing.
And we usually have a moment of silence, which we'll observe right now. Thank you. I would like, before we proceed, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Barney Frank, our former congressman. He was our congressman for over 30 years. He was elected first in 1981 and retired from Congress in 2013. And many in this room and many in town knew Barney. I didn't know him. I've met him. I long admired him. And he, through his intellect, honesty, advocacy, grew into a national figure and was the primary author of the Dodd-Frank legislation. And he's someone who I personally admired greatly. And the national program, Fresh Air, did played an interview with Barney in kind of in honor of his passing, and he related two stories which kind of, when I heard them, I just kind of laughed and just said to myself, that's pure Barney. I'll try to relate them, and I will not do it in his inimitable way, so probably the joke will fall flat, but here I go. In an early campaign for office, someone commented that he was wearing an ill-fitting suit. Barney's response was, that was unfair to the suit. The suit was well-fitting, but I wasn't the person it fit. On a policy matter, in response to a congressman from Oklahoma who stated that same-sex marriage hurts the institution of marriage, his response was that that was an argument that only can be made by someone in an institution. And he did that on the floor of Congress. So that for those of you who didn't know him or moved to town after 2013, that gives you a sense of who he was and the issues that were dear to him. And I think I will certainly miss his voice. So, okay, so I want to welcome you to the 2026 town meeting. And first, we have a special announcement about the Brookline Sister City project by Carol Pinheiro, who will give us some sad news.
Buenas tardes. On June 10th, 1987, the town of Brookline entered into a sister city relationship with the town of Quesalhuaque in Nicaragua, Central America, spearheaded by Maxine Shaw and other activists. That was the start of an enduring partnership that saw the construction of a library, health center and outposts, donation of an ambulance, computers for classrooms, toilets and wash basins for rural schools, and a completely renovated water system with solar power for the town. In return, we received a warm welcome into the homes of the people we stayed with on visits, and they shared their history, culture, language, and cuisine with us. After almost 40 years, the Brookline-Quesalhuaque Sister City project is heartbroken to announce its legal dissolution. The government of Nicaragua has communicated to the board that we are no longer welcome, no longer allowed to operate in that country, send money, or continue with projects. Therefore, we would like to communicate this to you in a public forum and express our profound gratitude to the people of Brookline who have joyously attended our celebrations and generously donated funds year after year, and even welcomed visitors from Nicaragua into their homes. You have enabled the people of Quesalhuaque to have improved access to healthcare, education, and economic stability. We salute you and thank you. Muchísimas gracias. Buenas noches.
Thank you. And that project was done pursuant, whoa, there's a new microphone set up, so I think we're just kind of figuring it out. So hopefully we will figure it out. Not too long. It was done pursuant to a vote of town meeting back before my time in town meeting, so I welcome that announcement, though I don't welcome the message. So, okay, moving on. I'd like to say a couple of words first about the advisory committee and the amount of work the advisory committee puts in is just amazing, and they're really what makes this town meeting the way it is. And right now, I'll be going through an appointment cycle. We have some openings. One of the things that I have to do in balancing the members, I appoint the members to the advisory committee. We need one town, as much as practicable, whatever that means, we need to get at least one town meeting member from each precinct. And right now I have openings in precincts 6, 9, and 10. And anyone else who might be interested in joining the advisory committee, please send me an email, and I will consider any emails that I get, and we'll talk to anybody. Always looking out for new members. One of the things I'm looking for in making appointments to the advisory committee is trying to achieve a balance, not only the geographic balance, but also a balance in skills, outlook, and also an ability to work well with others. So if you're interested in public policy, and you are if you're sitting in this room, certainly, or watching on Zoom or through the live stream or cable, and you're interested in joining the advisory, please send me an email. Okay. Now getting into the nitty-gritty of town meeting. You can follow the action by looking at the current town meeting files page, which is displayed on the screen. And circled is a link to a tracking spreadsheet that I've been keeping. So go to the next slide, please. And as we go along, I will be filling this in so you can see what we've done, the votes, and these will be the unofficial votes at first. And at the end of town meeting, the votes will be firmed up, and I'll post what the official votes are, because as Ben will explain in a minute, sometimes there might be some corrections, so there might be some adjustments here and there. And another thing I've implemented is there's a column that says location of motion, and that's a live link to the page that has the motion. So you can use this as your kind of base for attending town meeting. Click on it and it'll take you to the page that has the motion. I thought that would be a good thing. Next slide, please. Another thing that I've been maintaining, and we're back to the current town meeting files page, there's a button in the upper right or a link on the left for town meeting resources page. So next slide, please. Which takes you here, and there are all kinds of very useful links if you want to do research. And one of the links, next slide please, is to the new E-code version of the town bylaws, which has been now posted as of last week or the week before. So we now have online an actual current version of the town bylaws. Wow. Next slide, please. So if you're going to be speaking from the podium, we have a timer on the podium. This is, I think, the third year we've had this podium timer. And you as the speaker can see it, but the audience doesn't see it. And I did that on purpose, kind of lessen the pressure on folks who are speaking. But I will use that to enforce speaking limits. And if you go over your allotted speaking time, if you're going over by 10 seconds, I'm not going to say anything. But if your limit has been hit and I don't get a sense that you're on your way to concluding, I will remind you that your time is up, and I'll get increasingly obnoxious as you continue, and you really don't want me talking over you like that, because I will get really obnoxious, and that's not really a good look, and I hate doing it. So please observe the time frames. And one of the things I love is some people come up, they'll take their paper and cover the timer. Please don't do that. Next slide, please. So here, this is a reminder of a bylaw that you all passed back in 2022. And if you have a conflict of interest or an immediate family member has a financial interest in the article we're speaking about, you're not covered by the state ethics bylaw that says you can't participate, but there's a town bylaw that says you must disclose your interest. So that would be the first thing you say, and then you can get into your speech. Disclosure is important. And the next slide, please. Okay, so the first motion that we're going to use as kind of a test vote is a motion to rejigger a little bit some of the warrant articles. So some requests have been made to me by some petitioners and participants or non-town meeting member participants to have to be a little more certain as to when those warrant articles are going to be coming up. So for tomorrow, the first new business would be Article 9, assuming that's the CPA appropriation, followed by Article 23, which is the stipends for select board and school committee members. And then for Thursday, we would actually start with the special town meeting, but we're going to be voting that separately in a few minutes. But after that, the order will be Article 11, which is CTONS, Article 17, which is the first immigration enforcement article. That one is proposing a bylaw. And then Article 25, which is proposing a resolution. So you're going to be asked to vote on whether or not you agree with this. These kinds of motions have been routine in the past. Representative Vitolo. We need the mic on, please.
Trying it again.
There we
Tommy
go.
Vitolo, town meeting member at large. Mr. Moderator, if we vote to move warrant articles 17 and 25, would there be a single debate for them, or would they still have two debates?
We're having two debates and two separate votes, and they would just follow each other. There are no warrant articles this time around that have combined debates. I was considering these two having one debate, but the petitioners talked me out of it. So we'll have separate debates. So getting ready? Okay, so the vote is going to be whether to approve this rescheduling of those warrant articles. Okay, drop the vote. And this will be our practice vote, but it also counts. And we have 45 seconds. If you're having problems, there's an IT person in the back. Raise your hand. IT person in the back. Okay, the motion passes 233 to 8 to 8. So that will be the order of the warrant articles. Mr. Town Clerk, can you tell us about how to correct votes and the conditions upon which you will allow corrections?
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll start for this vote. This is not a recorded vote. Questions to motions to call the question, as well as votes on warrant articles, are all recorded. I'm sorry? Oh, I am Ben Kaufman. I am the town clerk. Excellent reminder. Thank you very much. Record motions to move around the order of an article, motions to adjourn or dissolve. Those are not recorded votes, so you do not need to worry about those. As the moderator said, if you're having an issue with your tablet, you can take it to the back. We have our IT team in the back who is more than capable of helping you. Please don't try to come up to our IT team at the stage. While they're more than capable, they're doing a million other things. You are allowed to correct your vote after the conclusion of tonight's town meeting. Tomorrow morning, I will circulate around a result of all of the votes from tonight's meeting, your name and the way that you voted as we have recorded for every single article that has a recorded vote tonight. If there was an issue with your vote, where your vote was not properly recorded for a technical reason, you have the ability to correct that vote. The technical reason is my tablet disconnected from the Wi-Fi and stopped working. Or when I opened up, there was no voting poll to drop down, so I didn't have the opportunity to vote. Those are technical reasons that can be corrected. For other issues, you were stepped away to get a cookie and you missed the vote. That is not a technical reason, and you cannot correct your vote. So please make sure you are present and in the room when the voting is happening, as you will not be able to correct those votes later. The method to correct those votes is to send an email to me, bkaufman@brooklinema.gov. In that, please state the vote, both the motion and the article. So if it is an article and the motion to terminate debate, or an article and the main motion, or an article and a referral, please specify, because many articles will have multiple motions under them. And please tell me what your corrected vote is so that I can make sure I do that. That is able to be done every day of town meeting up until town meeting dissolves. And when we do dissolve, as the moderator will speak then, will actually be effective the day after at 5 p.m. So you will have an opportunity to correct votes from the final night. I think that covers it. Thank you very much.
Okay, that covers it. I just gave Ben the hook. Those of you on Zoom, you'll communicate with the chat monitor, who will communicate with me that you wish to speak. And when speaking, please tell us who you are and your precinct. So with that, I think we're ready to go, and we're going to go to Article 1. Mr. Buono, his maiden voyage as a select board member.
Neil, I cannot see the timer on the tablet. All right. Alrighty. Good evening, Mr. Moderator, fellow town meeting members, and neighbors. My name is Anthony Buono, member of the Select Board, and I am incredibly proud to stand before you today as one of your newly elected Select Board members alongside my colleague, Amanda Zimmerman. I rise today as a mere seedling compared to the deep-rooted Brookline oaks who have long anchored this body, leaders like Bernard Green, Jocelyn Murphy, Regina Frawley, and Kathleen Cavell, to name a few. But I am deeply honored to have the opportunity to help leaf this town into the future. Now, to the matter at hand. I have a tendency to branch off into the woods when I speak, so I will try to stick on the issue. The measure of wood and bark is a sacred position here in Brookline and across New England. It is not a historic relic, it is a testament to what we owe one another. When the early settlers arrived on these shores fleeing persecution and poverty, they quickly realized, as a fundamental truth, they could not survive alone. An individual in the woods, isolated and solitary, is stumped by the harsh realities of nature. They had to cooperate. Take the collection of firewood. In a New England winter, wood was not a luxury, it was life. Villages would receive a single shipment on the coast in the summer, haul it back to their cabins, and pray it lasted until the spring. Naturally, people began to specialize, but soon some recognized they could exploit their neighbors' desperation for undue profit. In the biting cold of winter, loggers began shortchanging their community. A cord of wood promised at a certain measure would show up short. People noticed. Families ran out of fuel, and lives were put at risk. This brings us to a fundamental question. What is a free market? Is a market truly free when you are permitted to lie to your consumers? No. Markets cannot be free, only humans can be free. Markets do not exist in nature, they do not grow on trees, and they do not sprout from the ground. They are constructed, they are nurtured, and they are tendered. A market without rules is not freedom at all, it is domination by those who have. In the early days of this Commonwealth, it was domination by those who held the wood. Today, we see the same ancient greed under new names. America is trending towards oligarchy driven by speculators who exploit our most basic human needs and tech oligarchs who want to conquer our time. How do we fight back? We fight back exactly as our ancestors did, by stripping away their secrecy, policing their greed, and appointing measurers of wood and bark to stand between the speculator and the citizen. I urge your support on this warrant article. Thank you so much.
Wow. To go from measure of wood and bark to oligarchs. Mr. Dowdy.
Not sure I really want to follow that. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dennis Dowdy, Precinct 3, speaking for a unanimous advisory committee in support of Article 1. I have to give the obligatory conflict of interest disclosure, which is that I understand we have an opening in the measurers of wood and bark, and I think I would be a good measurer of wood and bark. Article 1 calls upon the Select Board to appoint 2 measurers of wood and bark whose task it is to ensure that certain standards are met for cords of firewood sold in Brookline. The position was established under Mass General Law, is largely ceremonial these days, but what I find interesting about it, other than the tradition of expertly filling the debate with puns, is that it represents the legislature taking an explicit annual vote which serves to remind us that government exists to serve the people. And it's an important reminder in an era when we can sometimes get caught up in squabbles over the process of governing. We do this because we want to make our town better for its residents. And this year, more than most, that reminder feels worth keeping in mind. For those of you who are new to town meeting, here's how the next few days are going to work. The moderator introduces each article. We hear from many speakers, pro and con. One group you will always hear from is the advisory committee, many of whom are sitting right there. Per the general bylaws, the advisory committee is a committee appointed by the moderator to consider any and all municipal questions and all articles in the warrant for a town meeting for the purpose of making reports and recommendations. And we interpret this as follows. We hold public hearings on all warrant articles, we produce reports on all warrant articles, and we make recommendations on most of them. In our reports, we try to lay out the meaning of a yes or no vote along with our assessment of the financial and legal implications of each article. The committee's aim is this: whether or not you agree with our recommendations, you can trust that our information gathering and analysis give you what you need to make the best decisions you can on even the knottiest of issues. And by a vote of 23-0 with no abstentions and after seasoned deliberations, the advisory committee unanimously recommends favorable action on Article 1.
Okay, so now I don't have any other speakers signed up, so we're ready for a vote. And this will be a yes, no, or abstain for whether or not to appoint measures of wood and bark. And if you vote no, I guess we won't, but and if you vote yes, we're going to do it. So let's drop the vote. That motion passes by a vote of 245 to 2 to 5 abstentions. Now we're going to take care of a little business, and I'm going to adjourn the annual town meeting, and now I convene the special town meeting, which was noticed for 7:30. And there's going to be a motion before you, and that motion is to move the special town meeting, number 1, to Thursday, May 28th at 7 p.m. So it'll be the first order of business on Thursday. And I did make a misstatement to Representative Vitolo's question. We will have a combined debate on the 2 warrant articles for STM 1. One is the rezoning, the other is to permit the select board to sign a memorandum of understanding. So the motion before you, if you vote yes, it's to move the special town meeting, and if you vote no, we won't, but this is one I'm going to put my finger on the scale. Please vote yes. So let's drop the vote. I'm not supposed to put my finger on the scale, so please forgive me. That motion passes 244. 244 to 5 to 4. So we will debate special town meeting 1 on Thursday starting at 7 p.m. Be the first order of business. I will now adjourn special town meeting 1, and I now reconvene the annual town meeting. So we're ready to go with Article 2. And this ratifies 2 collective bargaining agreements. There are 2 motions that we're going to do with 1 vote. The motions are on page 2-3 of the combined reports, and the select board chair, Perlman, will tell us about it.
Good evening, David Perlman, Select Board Chair. Warrant Article 2 seeks to have town meeting ratify 2 separate collective bargaining agreements in a single vote, one with the Brookline Engineering Division Associates, BEDA, and the other with the Teamsters Local 25 dispatchers. The BEDA agreement is a 1-year contract adjustment that increases wages by 2% with a retroactive effective date of July 1st, 2025. The total cost of the adjustment is $25,034. The Teamsters Local 25 contract is similarly a 1-year contract adjustment that increases wages by 2%. The total cost of that adjustment is $18,802. By a vote of 5 to 0 to 0, a unanimous select board supports favorable action on warrant Article 2.
Ms. Westfall for the advisory committee.
The advisory committee basically voted unanimously.
Who are you?
Oh, sorry. Christine Westfall speaking for the advisory committee. The advisory committee also supported passage of these memorandums of agreement unanimously. It's important to realize that it often takes several years to do a full collective bargaining agreement, and these motions, these memorandums, are an attempt to more quickly align the raises that these workers are getting as part of the collective bargaining process with the years that they are occurring. You'll notice that this is a 1-year retroactive agreement. Previously at town meetings, we have had ratifications of contracts that included 3 years of retroactive pay increases. That's difficult for the employees to budget, and it's also not good practice for us. So these are essentially partial labor agreements that only address contract raises, and as they align with the town's goal of holding raises to 2% per year, the advisory committee supports them completely.
Thank you. And I've been notified that I have been neglectful in not telling you who the motions have been moved by, and I'm glad to have people in back of me keeping me straight. So these motions were moved by Select Board Member Perlman, and seconded by Mr. Doty. So now we have, Ms. Perlman?
Bitsy Perlman, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 6. So as I was coming in today, I noticed that members of our fine library staff are lined up, presumably trying to ask questions about their collective bargaining agreement. So I was curious what the status of their collective bargaining agreement is, and if there are things that we can do to help make sure that that gets passed and resolved.
Yeah, I'll note that their contract is not part of this warrant article, but I will permit the question because it can be asked during the budget discussion, so we'll just take care of it.
Sure. Thank you for that question, Chaz Carey, Town Administrator. Those discussions are ongoing. We are in negotiations with the library union. The library union is part of AFSCME, which is our largest unions. They have many different employees across many different departments. We are in negotiations with that union. We are committed to reaching an agreement with them that's mutually agreeable. It's a process. It takes time. I know that it can be frustrating, but ultimately we want to do right by our employees, and we want to make sure that that happens. So I can say we are in active negotiations. We have multiple sessions ahead of us, and we are working collaboratively to reach an agreement there. So thank you for that question.
Okay, so we're now ready for a vote, and the motion is to approve the two contracts. A yes will approve them, a no will not approve them, or you can abstain. Okay, drop the vote. Motion passes 241 to 0 to 4. And I've been told I need to clarify something on the very consequential Article 1. The motion that you see in the combined reports is not formed correctly, and it's on page 1-1. To form it correctly and what you voted on, even though it wasn't formed correctly, instead of voting on to see if the town will establish the measures of wood and bark, what you voted on was voted that the town will establish. So the minutes will now have the correct. Oh, and delete the last phrase, or act on anything relative thereto. You did not vote on that. Okay, moving forward. This is a routine article that you will see every year. This is Article 3. The motion is on page 3-1 and was moved by Ms. Zimmerman, seconded by Mr. Gordon. Ms. Zimmerman on her maiden voyage.
Good evening. I'm Amanda Zimmerman, speaking on behalf of the Select Board. A brief note shared with us during our swearing-in 2 weeks ago.
Hold on. I'm told there's no sound. The audio dropped. Sorry. We can proceed without video, but we can't proceed without sound. So hopefully it will be resolved very quickly. I've been told that the sound on Zoom has been kind of going in and out while we've been proceeding. Are we back in business? Yes, no, maybe? Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, we're good? Yes, no? Give us the bat signal, please. We're good. We got the bat signal. So, Ms. Zimmerman, please start over.
Good evening. I'm Amanda Zimmerman, speaking on behalf of the Select Board. A brief note shared with us in our swearing in 2 weeks ago by Ben Kaufman. This May's election was the highest turnout Brookline has seen since World War II. A fact that I think everyone in this room should be proud of. May we aim to continue to see that high or higher engagement in our municipal affairs going forward. Now to the topic at hand. Compensating balances are agreements between a depositor and a bank in which a depositor agrees to maintain a specified level of non-interest-bearing deposits in return for which the bank agrees to perform certain services for the depositor. In order to incorporate such compensating balance agreements into the local budget process, the Commonwealth passed a law in 1986 mandating that all arrangements along these lines be authorized by town meeting on an annual basis. There are currently no such agreements planned in the current budget. However, in order to allow for maximum flexibility if it would be in the town's best interest, the Select Board voted 5-0 in support of Warrant Article 3 to authorize the town treasurer, with the approval of the Select Board, to enter into compensating balance agreements for fiscal year 2027. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gordon, do you have a lot to add?
I have little to add.
Good.
Neil Gordon, Precinct 1 Town Meeting member of the Advisory Committee, speaking for your unanimous Advisory Committee that voted 23-0 with no abstentions to recommend favorable action.
Short and to the point. Okay, we're ready for a vote. A yes vote is to approve compensating balance agreements by use for the treasurer. Go ahead. A yes allows it, a no doesn't. The motion is approved, 237 to 1 to 4. They should all be this easy. There's no motion on Article 4, so we will proceed to Article 5. And this is budget adjustments for the current fiscal year 2026. And we're going to be talking about the next fiscal year, which will be a much longer discussion, I'm sure, in a few minutes. But this is some adjustments for the current fiscal year. Here there are two motions, and they are on pages 5-2 and 5-3. It's a motion by Mr. Perlman on behalf of the Select Board and seconded by Mr. Doty. Mr. Perlman.
David Perlman, Chair of the Select Board. Massachusetts general laws mandate that every municipal account be fully balanced before the financial ledger officially closes on June 30th. Article 5 is our standard, routine, statutory mechanism to achieve that balance. It allows us to transparently review the past 11 months, account for unpredictable shifting operational realities, and execute the mid-course corrections necessary to maintain complete fiscal compliance. This year, our adjustments are focused on 3 distinct operational categories: the Golf Enterprise Fund, the Fire Department budget, and the Snow and Ice budget. Specifically, the article would authorize funding adjustments for the Golf Enterprise Fund to address operational and construction-related shortfalls, additional appropriations to cover projected overtime and operational deficits in the Fire Department budget, and supplemental funding for the Snow and Ice account following a severe winter season. The Golf Enterprise Fund experienced higher than anticipated costs associated with ahead-of-schedule drainage work connected to the golf course master plan project, along with adverse revenue impacts from a harsher-than-average winter season. Accessing $200,000 in retained earnings from within the Enterprise Fund will cover the revenue shortfall. For the Fire Department, the deficit of $860,000 is largely driven by overtime and staffing-related costs. Public safety departments face limited flexibility because minimum staffing requirements must still be maintained even when employees are out sick, on leave, responding to emergencies, or attending training. As a result, overtime expenses can rise significantly during periods of heavy operational demand. For the Snow and Ice account, the deficit of $110,000 reflects the unusually severe winter conditions this year. More storms, snow removal operations, salting, sanding, and extended DPW response activity created costs beyond what was originally budgeted for FY26. By a vote of 5-0 to 0, a unanimous Select Board recommends favorable action.
Mr. Dowdy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dennis Dowdy, Precinct 3, speaking for the Advisory Committee in unanimous support of the motions under Article 5. I had a whole explanation prepared, but Mr. Perlman summarized it nicely, so I will simply say that by votes of 23 to 0 with no abstentions, the Advisory Committee recommends favorable action on both of the motions under Article 5.
Okay, I don't have any additional speakers signed up, so I think we're ready for a vote. The vote is on 2 motions. And a yes vote will approve the spending and the adjustments, and a no vote does not, or you can abstain. So we're ready for the Article 5 main motion. Motion passes 243 to 1 to 5. Now we're ready for Article 6, unpaid bills of a prior fiscal year. This is an unusual article in that it requires an 80% vote. The motion is on page 6-1. It's moved by Mr. Rubenstein and seconded by Ms. Robotham. Mr. Rubenstein. Stein. Sorry about that.
Good evening. I am Michael Rubenstein, speaking on behalf of the Select Board. Warrant Article 6 is inserted into the warrant every town meeting in case there are any unpaid bills from a prior fiscal year that are deemed to be the legal obligations of the town. Per Massachusetts general law, unpaid bills from a prior fiscal year can only be paid from current year appropriations with the specific approval of town meeting. Finance Director Lincoln Heineman presented one bill for $5,959.09 in postage that was not received timely by the purchasing division from the vendor who prints and emails the town's real estate and personal property tax bills. This vendor has been reminded that in the future it must promptly send invoices to the appropriate staff member in order for them to be paid. The Select Board, by a vote of 5 to 0, unanimously recommends favorable action on the main motion of warrant Article 6.
Ms. Robotham.
Margaret Robotham, speaking on behalf of the Advisory Committee, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 3. To provide further detail to Mr. Rubenstein's description, the amount is owed to Kirkwood Direct LLC and relates to printing and mailing of the town's real estate and personal property tax bills. The Advisory Committee is satisfied that appropriate steps and staff are in place to help ensure that bills are paid in a timely basis in the ordinary course, and that the subject bill is a valid obligation of the town. By unanimous Advisory Committee vote of 21 to 0 with no abstentions, we recommend favorable action.
Thank you. No other speakers? Oh, I see a speaker.
Catherine Anderson, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 6. My question is, I and many other people did not receive the auto excise tax bills in March. I understand we were responsible for paying them in March, but they came as a demand notice to my house on May 9th and to many other people. And I'm just wondering if this company, if this unpaid bill in some way was related to the fact that many mailings did not seem to go out in March on this. Thank you.
Thank you. This doesn't relate to unpaid bills, but I'll permit the question because it would have, I'm just forestalling it. You could have asked during the budget, you asked now, so it's fine. Thank you.
Good evening. Lincoln Heineman, the Town's Director of Finance. Thank you for the question. So, in short, no, it is not related. This bill is for an outstanding bill to Kirkwood, as mentioned by Ms. Robotham, and they are the processor and mailer for our real estate and personal property tax bills. The bills in question that were in fact sent in late February are from Kelly Ryan, which is the processor and mailer for our motor vehicle excise tax bills. We have, and it's not just the finance department, it's departments throughout town, and I think many, if not all, most residents in town. We do have a problem with the Postal Service delivering mail in Brookline specifically, but throughout the country in general in a timely fashion. So all bills are mailed by excise tax bills and real estate tax bills as appropriate. We know they're mailed. There's a legal document that the processor sends us that's an affidavit of mailing, so we know they're in the mail system, but we also understand that that many people are having trouble receiving the mail in a timely fashion. We've taken various steps that I won't get into now, but I'm happy to seek improvement from the post office, but I would also urge anyone, for example, with your excise tax bill, if you do not change your vehicle and you do not, in the course of the year, the prior year, and you do not receive a motor vehicle excise tax bill by early March, please contact us. Reach out to us. We're always happy to get you a duplicate bill. We're always happy to tell you how you can access the bills easily online. But I'll stop there and won't bore folks more with it, but happy to take any further questions on it.
Thank you. I know I've experienced problems with the post office, and I think for this town meeting, many of you have not received the supplement, I understand. So it's a problem. Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. The vote is on the main motion of Article 6, and this will permit the payment of this unpaid bill of a bit over $5,000. Yes allows the payment, no does not, or you can abstain, drop the vote. Motion passes 242-0 to 3. Moving on to Article 7. And this is an article to establish an override stabilization fund, which I'm sure our speakers will explain what that is. The motion is on page 7-2. It's moved by Mr. Rubenstein. Stein. I'm terrible. Seconded by Mr. Dowdy. Mr. Rubenstein.
Michael Rubenstein, Select Board member, speaking on behalf of the Select Board. On May 5th, 2026, voters approved a roughly $23.25 million increase to Brookline's property tax levy limit. At this moment, I would like to recognize all of the civic leaders who worked to earn voters' approval. Tonight's proceedings and the future of our town would look very different but for your efforts. Thank you. As in past overrides, the increase will be phased into the tax levy over 3 years. This time, however, the municipal departments asked that their full share be added to the tax bill in year 1. Rather than spend it all immediately, the town will set a portion aside in a special account where it can earn interest and remain segregated until needed in later years of the override cycle. This structure allowed us to keep the ballot number below $25 million and held municipal budget growth below the 2023 override when adjusted for inflation. A separate fund matters. It lets town meeting exercise strict control over the money and prevents it from being used for unnecessary expenses. Some have asked why we can't simply leave it unappropriated. If we did, it would fall into free cash, and when we later drew on it, outside observers would see Brookline appropriating free cash to cover operating costs, which could harm our bond rating. The override passed, and the structure presented to voters expressly contemplated this override fund. Creating it now is the expected and appropriate next step. A unanimous Select Board recommends favorable action on Warrant Article 7. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dowdy?
Thank you, Dennis Dowdy, Precinct 3, speaking for what was a narrowly divided advisory committee in support of Article 7. Article 7 would establish the Operating Override Stabilization Fund, and you already heard the details of how it would operate, especially the mechanism by which certain funds will be unspent in this fiscal year and be appropriated in subsequent years to address future needs. With passage of the override, the choice before town meeting is whether to establish this fund or not. If it is established, it will require a future vote of town meeting to direct the funds, most likely in fiscal years 2028 or 2029. If the fund is not established, the funds will remain collected but unappropriated, and they will either be appropriated by a majority vote at the fall town meeting or fall into free cash for next year. The divisions during our debate revolved around the use of the so-called Arlington model, in which we would raise but not fully spend the municipal portion of the override in the first year. And the arguments against were that such an approach could accelerate the affordability crisis in town, result in a bumpier introduction of the new tax rate. Additionally, it was argued that it would add to voter comprehension concerns, whereas arguments in favor of the approach included that the total dollar amount explicitly collected from taxpayers would be lower despite the larger first-year increase. But no matter your opinion of those arguments, they were essentially mooted by the passage of the override, and we are now faced with the technical question of whether to establish this fund or not. And by a vote of 12 to 11 with 1 abstention, the advisory committee recommends favorable action on Warrant Article 7.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Khan.
On town meeting member precinct 15. So what happens to the fund after 3 years?
Who would like to pick that one up? Mr. Carey.
Hi, Chaz Carey, Town Administrator. Thank you for that question. Under the scheme that we have put together, it will be spent. It will be spent down, and that will be the end of this override cycle. If there are additional funds, there is no, for example, if we post a surplus, if our projections are higher than expected, we don't need to draw on that fund as much. Theoretically, it could be used in future fiscal years. There's no time limit on it, so it could be used, as with any other source, to be appropriated for general municipal expenses.
Follow-up question. So this is specifically an override stabilization fund.
Correct.
So we have other funds in the town that we use for different purposes. This seems specifically for an override. So does the town anticipate then another override in 3 years?
I think that depends on the conditions of the town. I think realistically, when looking at the schools and the gap there, we are going to have a conversation about whether or not an override is necessary. But I don't know what the size of the contours of that are. As the Expenditures and Revenues Study Committee report discusses, there are a number of things that are changing for the better for the town in terms of our finances at the turn of the next decade, and that is positive. There's also the discussion of potential commercial growth and so forth that is not going to happen in these next 3 years, but may happen in out years that may have an impact on our overall revenues. But it's difficult to say at this point what that's going to look like. If there was another override, then this fund could be used again for the same purpose. That is, if there was a decision made by the select board and then the voters to structure it this way, then we could do it that way again. But we need not do so. We are not committed to that model going forward.
So just clarification, this fund that we're setting up is only to be used in the case of an override. It's not, we won't be putting other funds into this.
That's
yes?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Warren,
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Paul Warren, Town Meeting Member Precinct 1.
please.
Is that okay? Better. I'm sorry if this... What's that? I'm going to try one more time. I'm sorry if I missed this in the remarks. It's a 50% vote to create the fund, the stabilization fund. What is the threshold to get money out? It's a 2/3 vote to get it out.
Yes, 2/3.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ananian?
C. Scott Nanian, ooh boy, Town Meeting Member Precinct 10. I guess I have a follow-up question for Mr. Warren's question. If it's a 2/3 vote to get it out, does that mean that in the next 2 years we're going to be taking that vote? Okay.
If we want it out of the fund, yes, we will take that vote.
But then to clarify what you had said before, once the fund is created, or what the town administrator had said before, once the fund is created, we wouldn't need one in 3 or 5 years, or whatever the override is to put more money in. We would just continue to need a 2/3 vote to take it out.
Right. Once we establish the fund, it's there. And it could be an empty account, or we could replenish it.
Okay, and then, sorry, my actual question was, the schools are not using this fund, and I was curious if anyone could say why that was, since it seems to be sort of leaving money on the table that could help the schools.
The microphone?
Sorry, I know it's with the feedback. I'll wait. Okay, I'm Chaz Carey, Town Administrator. Thank you again for that question. That was a subject of quite intense discussion at the Expenditures and Revenues Study Committee. There is a benefit to this structure, which is it lowers the overall dollar amount of the override, but as members of that committee pointed out, there are potential drawbacks. For example, puts all the money up front, so people are getting taxed more and they're getting taxed earlier. So more money is actually being collected in taxes, even though the overall override number, the increase in the levy is lower. So some people felt that was disingenuous. And with such a high number on the school side, it was felt ultimately that it was best to put the cards on the table. This is actually what it will cost to run the schools for the next 3 years, and we will phase it in over this way. We will not structure it in this other way, which realizes some savings short term, but does assume that there's going to be a brighter financial picture at the end of it in order to avoid a fiscal cliff at the end of the override cycle. And because there was this concern that we didn't want to have a large fiscal cliff for the schools ultimately made the Expenditures Revenue Study Committee ultimately recommended, and the Select Board adopted the recommendation that the schools be structured in this fashion.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Jonathan Davis, Precinct 17. Just so I understand, if there is a surplus left in the fund after 3 years, that surplus cannot be removed except for any further to fund any further override, or it can be? That wasn't clear to me.
Ms. Goff?
Melissa Goff, Deputy Town Administrator. Town meeting can always choose to close the fund, just like we have under Article 4 a list of town accounts that town meeting has the ability to close. It would be similar to that, where you could vote to extinguish the account.
And the percentage required to close the account would be?
I'm not aware of what the percentage is. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anyone else at the microphone. There are no other speakers signed up. So I think we're ready for a vote on Article 7, the main motion, which establishes the Override Stabilization Fund. A yes establishes the fund, a no does not. Okay, we're ready for the vote. Drop it. Motion is approved, 217 to 24 to 5. We're now ready for the town budget, which is Article 8. And this is the most complex article that we'll be dealing with at this town meeting. The motion is the advisory committee motion that begins on the supplement 1, pages 8 through 16, plus tables that are labeled May 2026. There was an earlier version that went out with the combined report. There is now a revised version that's labeled May 2026. That's on this orange paper if you're in the room. And if you're at home, you just look at the upper right-hand corner, and it says May 2026. And some news. There were some differences coming into town meeting between the advisory committee and the select board. Those differences have been reconciled, so there is no difference between the two motions. So there's no alternate motions anywhere in the budget. So, yeah. And that's actually unusual, and at least most years there's usually 1 or 2 differences, and this year they kind of worked out their differences, and I think that's a good thing. And then there are no citizen budget motions. There was one which actually, when we get to it, related to a capital improvement item on street rehabilitation. That piece was altered in response to the citizen motion, and reflects, I believe, the concurrence with the folks who made that motion. So a lot of stuff has been worked out. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to be going through each section of the budget. I will announce them, and then if you have any comments or questions, you would come to the microphones, and I'll recognize you. I'll start with an apology, because I know there are a lot of new town meeting members, and I will make a confession that I am terrible with names. So please don't be insulted if I don't know your name, and I will try to be as polite as I can in recognizing you. So first we'll be going through the conditions of appropriation, including the revolving funds. And then we'll go to the special appropriations, which is the CIP items. The CIP is the Capital Improvement Program items. We'll go through them one by one, and you can come to the microphone, ask your question, make a comment. And then once we are done with that, we'll talk about free cash, which is neither free nor cash. And then we'll get to the departmental operating budgets. We'll go through them either one by one or in groups. I'm going to announce one group in advance, and that's the Select Board and Town Council. We're going to consider those together as a group, because I know there are some issues which I suspect you're going to hear about, and it's uncertain which department to raise them under, so I will forestall that decision and we'll just consider them together. We'll then go to the school budget, non-departmental expenses, and then we'll have an omnibus vote. We're going to have some separate votes on some items in the CIP that require a bonding vote, a 2/3 bonding vote. When we get to those, I will announce that. And then they're in the latter part of the CIP. But before we do all that, we're going to hear from Mr. Dowdy on behalf of the Advisory Committee, Mr. Perlman on behalf of the Select Board, and Ms. Wong on behalf of the schools. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Mr. Dowdy, and these are the town budget addresses.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dennis Dowdy, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 3, and Advisory Committee Chair, speaking for a unanimous Advisory Committee, recommending favorable action on the main budget motion of $439,876,474, which includes an allocation of $149,801,900 to the public schools of Brookline. And although the moderator stole my thunder, I am pleased to note that our budget is endorsed by the Select Board. The bylaws require the Advisory Committee to submit the budget to the annual town meeting, and they further state that the committee may, quote, examine the books and records of any board, committee, or officer of the town. In practice, what that means is that the Advisory Committee holds public hearings in which it reviews the budget requests for each department, makes recommendations on each request, which in some cases represent significant departures from the original proposals, issues reports, and ultimately is responsible for introducing this comprehensive budget motion to town meeting. In the best of years, departmental budget reviews will often be laborious and sometimes be strained. It cannot be easy to be a department head who, after a long day at work, must sit through several hours of subcommittee hearings, often over many evenings, and then face difficult questions from the full committee, again over many evenings, while the budget is being formally considered. In 2026, the committee held over 40 public hearings or meetings on the budget alone. I would actually total up that number of hours, but I feel that in so doing, I would undermine Neil's request for volunteers to consider serving. I want to thank each and every member of the committee for their dedication, and of course I want to thank town administration and staff, particularly Melissa Goff and Charlie Young, who are almost always with us, but also Chaz Carey and all of the department heads and senior staff who work with us and appear before us. And I introduced this by saying that the budget review process can be strained even in the best of years, and this year was not the best of years. First and foremost, it was complicated by the fact that an override was on the ballot, and because the outcome of the override was inherently unknowable, this meant that our budget review often focused on the cuts which would be in effect in the event the override failed. And these cuts were sometimes painful. Many of them were debated at length in the press or on social media. And secondly, as you just saw from the debate over the override stabilization fund, There was considerable disagreement within the committee regarding the approach to the override itself in terms of its structure, size, and how the raised funds should best be used. And finally, there was a lengthy discussion over many nights over the appropriateness of town funds being spent on the investigation related to the solid waste disposal contract. The committee ultimately amended town council's budget to move funds that could be used for future investigations of this kind into the reserve fund, so that any future expenditure would require explicit additional approval. And I mention all of this because, let's face it, town meeting is not really voting on a budget. I mean, you're voting on a budget. There are line items outlined down to the individual dollar, but as you already saw, when we get to the end of the fiscal year, not all of those individual dollars are necessarily going to be fully spent. Some of them will flow to free cash. As we did earlier in this session, a future town meeting might adjust one or more budgets. A department might request a reallocation of its own budgeted spending categories. A future reserve fund transfer might adjust departmental spending. We do each of these things every year. So while your vote tonight is for a budget, what we are really asking you to vote for is your support of this budgeting process. And so you have to feel comfortable that this laborious and sometimes adversarial process produced results that you can support. This process doesn't start or end with a single year's budget, because many times during the budget review hearings, we identify unmet needs that cannot be adequately addressed in the current budget cycle, so they become priorities in future budgets. And this is an area where the town administrator deserves a great deal of praise. As I noted before you last year, the fiscal year 2026 budget was unusual because the committee did not make a single adjustment to any departmental budget. And that meant that the town administration had internalized the priorities of the advisory committee, which are largely influenced by the priorities voted here at town meeting. So just to remind you of a few of the successes over the past several years. The default amount allocated for building maintenance has significantly increased and is accounted for in town school partnership budget discussions. To be sure, we continue to have concerns in this area, and I'll say more about this a little later, but progress has been made. We no longer subsidize parking meter credit card fees. The amount we've allocated to our reserves has increased per the recommendations from the Brookline Fiscal Advisory Committee and seconded by the Advisory Committee. The Department of Veterans Affairs has its own vehicle. We are still operating with active police and fire department contracts. Last year, the town funded a review of the budgets and processes of the school department, which has long been a priority of the advisory committee. And last but not least, as you saw earlier, the town bylaws have been digitized. Most of those items were urged by the advisory committee over several budget cycles. So that means that each time we come to town meeting with a budget to vote on, it represents our best overall judgment at that particular moment. And as I said, most things that we discuss during a budget cycle have their greatest impact during the next budget, and that's where you all come in, because your best way to impact the budget is to get involved in those discussions. The hearings are open to the public. Our meetings have ample opportunity for public comment. Now for the highlights of the budget. The report starts on page 8-14 of the combined reports. As town meeting members, you should all read it. I'll wait. You should also be familiar with how to explore the budget. It's accessible by starting on the town's homepage at brooklinema.gov. You navigate to Budget Central, and there you can find pretty much anything you need to find. Historical data, projections broken down along any number of dimensions. Local receipts are estimated to be up 7.9% from fiscal year 26. Last year, they increased by 5.6%, so that's generally good news. Although it is also the case that this year's increase mostly comes from parking and court fine increases. Lodging taxes, meals taxes, marijuana excise tax revenues are largely unchanged. In other words, the discretionary spending indicators are flat. Although, because of the levy increase the voters just approved, the overall budget is up 5.2% from fiscal year 26. For 3 years in a row, we had a larger than typical free cash number, which indicates that our actual revenues exceeded forecasts or that expenditures were lower than anticipated. In those years, we benefited from greater than average building permit revenues and lesser than average snow removal expenses. And as I'm sure you're aware, we didn't have all of those same conditions last year. Fortunately, we planned conservatively, and the fact that the free cash did come in under estimates, but that shortfall will be buttressed with funds from the overlay account. Our reserves continue to be maintained at least 10% of prior year revenue, which is essential to preserving our bond rating. We continue to be on track to fully fund the pension fund by 2030. So think about that for a minute. We've been talking about this for a long, long time, but we only have 3 more budget cycles, and we will have addressed that deficit. We still have significant OPEB, also known as other post-employment benefit liabilities, and we continue to allocate funds from free cash to whittle those down. And once the pension fund is fully funded, we should be able to more aggressively address the OPEB concerns. 3 specific areas of ongoing concern in our budget are worthy of note: building maintenance, fire department overtime, and the ongoing cost of providing a quality Brookline education. So first, building maintenance. The cost of maintaining our buildings is increasing faster than we are adding funds to the maintenance budgets. This is driven mostly by 2 factors. 1, per unit utility costs are up. You've all seen that. 2, you've also seen this. We keep building new buildings, and we keep or expanding the buildings we have, most notably the schools. And the schools are often faced with a difficult choice, which is the choice to spend money on building maintenance or education. This is an ongoing concern. In 1987, the advisory committee's report to town meeting wrote, and I'm reading directly here, "The committee recommends the school committee give higher priority to maintaining and upgrading the school physical plant." End quote. For contemporary budgeting, each year the building department estimates the repair and maintenance costs for school buildings and submits a request for funding in the school budget. And this year there is a $310,000 gap between the request and the allocation. The advisory committee during budget deliberations strongly considered adjusting the budgets for the schools and the building department to address this gap in whole or in part, but was persuaded by assurances from town administration that anticipated state aid arriving in the fall will be earmarked for this purpose. That's good news, but I'm sure you noticed on your way here, there is a very large new building on School Street that's going to open soon, and that will require ongoing maintenance and insurance that must be accounted for in future budgets. And it would be good practice for the town for future large-scale capital projects funded by debt exclusions to be accompanied by revenue increases that cover expected increases to operating costs. Fire department overtime. Last year, we reported on a proposal from the Assistant Town Administrator for Finance to give the fire chief the ability to temporarily adjust minimum staffing requirements during periods of significant sick leave. This proposal was abandoned. This year's budget includes an increase of $800,000 for overtime. And of course, just moments ago, we amended the fiscal year 2026 budget by $860,000 for overtime. We've also often been called upon to use the reserve fund to cover deficits of this sort. And it is unfortunate that we have not been able to reduce the overall overtime spending, but it is heartening that we are trying to do a better job of accounting for this, at least in the budget itself. With respect to the schools, I must remind you that town meeting does not oversee specific school budget line items. State law gives that authority to the school committee. What we do is we set the overall allocation of funds. For fiscal year 27, the school budget is $149,801,900, a 4.8% increase from fiscal year 26. Last year in this budget report, I said, the school budget is balanced, but it is balanced through the use of, among other things, circuit breaker revolving funds and a 1-year delay in the design phase of the Lincoln School playground. And the best that I can say about this is that it is our collective opinion that this is the least bad of the options we were able to consider. So it is a relief to report that this year's overall budget addresses the circuit breaker funds, puts the Lincoln School playground design back into the CIP. This is no longer a least bad budget. It is a school budget that continues to grow significantly, and during our review, we noted remarkable statistics. For example, between fiscal year 88 and 96, about 18% of the student population was enrolled in what was categorized as special education. In 1987, we spent $1 million on special education tuition, corresponding to just under $3 million $3 million in today's dollars. Today, that number is much, much higher. The most recent briefing that we received, 33% of our educational staff is dedicated to special education. 40.6% of the student body is characterized as high needs, which is not the same thing. It's just to indicate that there are special needs that we have identified that we need to address in our school population. And to be clear, this is not an argument against special education or against addressing those needs. This is an acknowledgement that state requirements, community priorities, parental expectations have all changed over the years, and those changes come with a cost. And as previously mentioned, the building operational costs are also increasing and will put additional demands on the school budget. As voters, as residents, and as town meeting members, we continually ask for more from our public services, especially the schools, and we cannot be surprised when those bills come due. One final operating item. Last year, we expressed disappointment that the funding of the police contract came on the backs of a delay in hiring open positions within the force. With the recently passed override, the plan is now to hire 2 new full-time equivalents in fiscal year 27 and phase in the remaining open positions over the following 2 years. So now we'll turn to the capital improvement programs, also referred to as the CIP. We have over $1 billion worth of public buildings, which is split about 80-20 for school uses and general town uses. That's not counting the Pierce School or the planned fire station renovations, which will ultimately bring this up to a nominal value of well over $1.3 billion and replacement costs far exceeding that. Our CIP can be thought of as essentially a recurring component and an elective component. The recurring capital expenses show up each and every year as a normal cost of maintenance to our infrastructure. Examples of this in this year's budget include the line items for building rehab, street and sidewalk repair, playground rehab, tree removal and replacement, HVAC equipment and enhancements, building envelope work, and roof repairs. Many of these are on round-robin schedules, which ensure that each building, tree, playground, and fire truck gets attention at regular intervals, and that comes to approximately $17.3 million in fiscal year 27. There are also some federal and state mandates, for example, water system improvements, ADA compliance, and the like, that adds up to about $5.6 million. And in this fiscal year, our elective expenses include the first phases of the Strategic Solar Initiative, traffic calming initiatives, bicycle access improvements, additional street rehabilitation, including Washington Street, work on the transfer station, as we've discussed in the past, additional big belly waste collection stations, replacing the filtration system at the Korean Aquatic Center, and repaving in the Walnut Hill Cemetery. That's another $10.7 million for a grand total of over $34 million, which includes both revenue-funded and bond-funded projects. And I will point out that that does not include any funding for the installation of lighting at the driving range, a topic which I know is of concern to many of you. That project requires more attention before it will be brought to town meeting. So last year I said that Brookline's opportunities for new growth appeared limited. Our debt levels remain at historic highs. We appear to be no closer to substantive cuts in any area of the budget, and our voters are increasingly less willing to increase taxes. Two of those statements are less true today than 1 year ago. Just a few weeks ago, the voters overwhelmingly approved a levy increase, and later in this town meeting, well, Thursday, I guess, and we now moved it there will be a debate over the scope and extent of a proposed major new growth initiative. So I would like to end by returning to the positives. We have a well-managed town with an exceptional bond rating. We have successfully navigated our headwinds, and our process, as contentious as it may be, is sound. So we are asking for your support. What's before us tonight is vote on 34 capital improvement projects, which we recommend favorable action on each of. And by unanimous vote, we recommend favorable action on the omnibus budget motion printed on pages 8-6 to 8-16 of the combined report supplemental mailing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perlman.
Good evening again. David Perlman, Chair of the Select Board. Tonight, I stand before this distinguished body with a profound sense of pride, humility, and responsibility. We gather this evening, tomorrow evening, and maybe several more evenings after that, to assess where we stand and to deliberate over the defining choices that will shape our collective future. But before looking ahead, I would like to acknowledge the leadership that helped bring us to this moment. Stepping into this role, I'm acutely aware of the massive shoes I have to fill. I want to extend my deepest personal gratitude and the collective thanks of our entire community to my predecessor, former Select Board Chair Bernard Green. Bernard has served our town on the Select Board for over a decade, leading as chair for over 6 highly consequential years. He steered Brookline with a steady hand through some of the most turbulent periods in our modern history, from the unprecedented disruptions of the pandemic to complex conversations around public safety reform. Bernard, your lifetime of service to Brookline sets a standard for us all, and we are profoundly grateful for your leadership. I also want to thank recent former Select Board members John Van Scoyoc and Paul Warren for their leadership over the years. Their imprints on this year's budget are significant, and many of their contributions will continue to bear fruit in the years ahead. As everyone in this auditorium knows, Brookline is an historic, vibrant, living community of 63,000 people bound together by a tradition of fierce commitment to civic engagement, a shared belief in public service, and a profound multi-generational responsibility to one another and to our progeny. That tradition continues today. We have made transformational, generational investments in public education infrastructure at Driscoll, the high school, and now Pierce, providing modern long-term capacity where future generations of Brookline students can continue to thrive. We have strengthened the safety of our community and the health of our public safety employees by committing to modernizing our fire stations, fortifying our public health infrastructure, expanding our innovative crisis response capabilities, and upgrading our aging emergency communication networks, such as the new town-wide Alert Brookline network that integrates police with fire. Guided by our open space and recreation plan, we continue to revitalize parks, playgrounds, athletic fields, and open spaces town-wide. Through our comprehensive climate action and resiliency plan, we have invested aggressively in energy efficiency, municipal building electrification, urban canopy expansion, and advanced stormwater management. The Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources designated Brookline a climate leader community, which positions the town to apply for up to $1.15 million in grants to decarbonize municipal buildings and fleets. Through Brookline's Complete Streets program and our active Vision Zero initiative, we have begun the important work of systematically repaving our roadways while fundamentally redesigning dangerous intersections, expanding pedestrian corridors, and improving bicycle accommodations. Vision Zero reflects a simple, powerful conviction that traffic deaths and serious injuries are not an inevitable cost of modern mobility. The Brookline Housing Authority recently completed construction of a brand new 115-unit affordable housing development in Coolidge Corner, designed for seniors and individuals with disabilities. This project replaced 60 outdated public housing units. And these are just a few of many examples of progress. For the rankings conscious among us, Boston Magazine rated Brookline the best place to live in Greater Boston in 2026, while U.S. News & World Report named Brookline the '1 best place to live for quality of life in all of America. Obviously, we're doing some things right. Yet, even as we celebrate these profound accomplishments, we must look at our balance sheet with equal clarity. We must confront an undeniable, persistent, and difficult fiscal reality. Across the Commonwealth, municipalities are grappling with a severe structural imbalance between escalating operational costs and strictly limited revenue growth within the confines of Proposition 2.5. This is a systemic challenge, and Brookline feels these pressures acutely. Healthcare costs for our active and retired employees continue to outpace ordinary inflation. Our pension and retirement obligations remain significant, The market cost of construction and infrastructure materials has skyrocketed. Our special education costs continue to grow as federal and statewide funding formulas continue to lag in supporting mandated increases. And general inflation has touched virtually every facet of daily municipal operations. The figures within our fiscal year 2027 budget illustrate these compounding pressures with unmistakable, sobering clarity. The town enters this cycle facing a distinct structural deficit driven by fixed costs climbing faster than recurring revenue. To fully protect our core programs, town voters generously reached into their wallets and passed a critical operating override of $23.25 million for the FY27 through FY29 budgets, one which provides $17.94 million for our public schools and another $5.31 million for town operations. Of particular note on the town side, this measure facilitates $1.71 million for the fire department to correct a historic structural deficit in the overtime account and preserve our minimum staffing model. As we head into this town meeting, our town leadership stands unified on a budget that will fund town departments in FY27 to the tune of $103.46 million and the school department $149.81 million. Through rigorous collaboration and hours of shared analysis, the Select Board's proposed budget fully matches the recommendations of the Advisory Committee. This complete budgetary alignment gives town meeting a unified fiscal roadmap for FY27. But storm clouds continue to hover. To sustain our vital public services, we continue to rely overwhelmingly on residential property taxes, which comprise roughly 79% of Brookline's annual revenue base. This comes at a time when housing costs in Brookline continue to rise sharply, with the median home value now exceeding $1.2 million. Nearly 40% of our households are officially considered housing cost burdened, meaning they spend more than a third of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. Utilities cost more, grocery bills are higher, everyday life is simply more expensive, especially for our fixed income seniors, municipal and service sector employees, and young adults trying to build their families. Because of this, our residents rightly expect town government to operate with the absolute utmost fiscal discipline, efficiency, and transparency. Every single expenditure must deliver clear, measurable, and demonstrable public value. The recommendations of the Expenditures and Revenue Study Committee and its predecessor group, the Brookline Fiscal Advisory Committee, should be actively explored and implemented as soon as practicable. We must also demonstrate to our taxpayers that we are looking for savings within our own operations before asking the voters for more money. In the run-up to the 2026 override, both the school and town departments did exactly that, making painful but minimally tolerable cuts in order to reduce the financial ask to the voters. But let us be completely honest with ourselves tonight. Efficiency alone and minor operational reductions cannot close Brookline's long-term structural deficit, nor can over-reliance on the compounding perils of deferred maintenance. When a municipality chooses to save a quick dollar today by delaying repairs on a crumbling roadway, an aging HVAC system, or a leaking public housing roof, it is not actually saving money, it is taking out an interest-bearing loan against Brookline's future. Neglecting our capital assets does not make the bill disappear. It simply ensures that the next generation of Brookline taxpayers will pay a much higher price for our inaction. The bottom line is we cannot indefinitely cut, defer, or tax our way to financial sustainability while maintaining the high caliber of public education, public safety, and public services that our residents expect, deserve, and move to Brookline for. If we try to balance our books solely through austerity, we will slowly but surely hollow out the very institutions that make Brookline desirable in the first place. And if we ask our residents to commit to regular overrides, we will become a community for only the wealthiest and a limited number of the poorest among us. That is why Brookline must pivot with urgency, clarity, and courage toward responsible, intentional economic growth. A robust, thriving commercial tax base is no longer a luxury or an afterthought. It is a structural necessity. Mixed-use development directly alleviates pressure on residential taxpayers while generating the vital recurring revenue needed to fund our classrooms, our ladder trucks, our parks, our libraries, and our public health programs. Collectively, this is why the FY27 budget continues to fund our planning department to the levels necessary to pursue such growth. Coolidge Corner, Brookline Village, Washington Square, St. Mary's, Commonwealth Avenue, and Chestnut Hill are economic engines. By supporting our local merchants, reducing bureaucratic barriers to business success, filling existing vacant spaces, and encouraging the creation of thoughtful, new, mixed-use developments, we strengthen both our local economy and our fiscal foundation. This growth must be intentional. It should respect neighborhood context, uphold design and sustainability standards, and involve deep, meaningful, ongoing public engagement from the very beginning. It should contribute to the walkability, beauty, and vitality of the public realm. In tandem with economic growth, housing production across all income levels must remain central to this long-term strategy. Brookline urgently needs deeply affordable housing for low-income families and seniors who face displacement. We need workforce housing for our police officers, firefighters, teachers, daycare providers, nurses, and town employees, so they don't have to commute for hours to serve our community. We need middle-income housing for growing families who want to stay here, and we need market-rate housing to help relieve the intense, suffocating pressure on our broader regional market. A community cannot truly thrive, nor can it claim to be inclusive, if only the wealthiest can afford to live within its borders. If we fail to create housing opportunities for a diverse range of people, we risk losing the very economic and social diversity that has historically made Brookline dynamic, vibrant, and compassionate. Housing is not just a development issue. It is a generational issue, an economic issue, a public health issue, and fundamentally a moral issue. Our housing production plan provides a clear, thoughtful roadmap to achieve this, focusing growth near transit hubs and existing infrastructure, while also strengthening our village centers. The proposed Chestnut Hill West rezoning to be considered at this town meeting is a meaningful example of this mixed-use development vision in action, but it is only a chapter, not the final word, in Brookline's development conversation. No single project will erase our fiscal challenges or housing pressures overnight. The work ahead will require ongoing patience, astute zoning, infrastructure coordination, traffic mitigation, and sustained, respectful civic dialogue. The question before Brookline is not whether change will occur. Change is already coming. Macroeconomic forces, regional housing shortages, state law, and demographic shifts ensure that stagnation is an illusion. The question is whether we will guide that change thoughtfully and responsibly, or merely let it happen. Communities that resist all meaningful growth ultimately face a grim future: skyrocketing tax burdens, diminished affordability, hollowed out commercial districts, and deteriorating public services. Building for the future does not have to come at the expense of cherished open spaces or aesthetic neighborhood identities. Brookline can choose a better path, one that beautifully balances preservation with progress and fiscal restraint with bold, long-term investment. Despite the weight of these challenges, Brookline remains uniquely and exceptionally positioned for a prosperous future. Our financial management is recognized as exceptionally strong, and our bond rating remains at the highest possible AAA level. The decisions ahead will require immense, steady institutional competence. None of the progress we discussed tonight would be possible without the profound expertise, tirelessness, and strategic vision of our executive leadership team and staff. I want to explicitly recognize and thank our town administrator, Chaz Carey. Chaz, your steady stewardship of our municipal operations, your masterful handling of our long-term financial modeling, and your leadership through this intense FY27 budget process have been invaluable to the Select Board and to this town. Equally, I want to praise our school superintendent, Bella Wong. Navigating the compounding fiscal and educational demands of our school system requires an extraordinary level of dedication and clarity. Together with our full suite of senior staff, our department heads, our budget analysts, and our public safety chiefs, these leaders work around the clock to translate the values of this community into efficient, daily operational reality. I also thank our expert community volunteers who serve on various boards, committees, commissions, and study groups, town meeting members, school committee members, advisory committee members, Vice Chair Michael Rubenstein, whose indefatigable efforts on Chestnut Hill West bring great promise for our economic future. Our two newest select board members, Amanda Zimmerman and Anthony Buono, who have really hit the ground running. I mean, 2,000 words on a proposed amendment, that's incredible. And everyone else who works so tirelessly on behalf of our town. Our challenges are real and they are substantial, but our strengths are monumental. If we confront the future with honesty, discipline, and shared courageous vision, Brookline will remain not only one of the finest communities in the Commonwealth, but one of the finest communities anywhere in the world. By a vote of 3-0 to 2, the Select Board recommends favorable action on the Advisory Committee motion for Warrant Article 8. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last budget speech before us is Superintendent Bella Wong. And this is Ms. Wong's maiden voyage at town meeting. So there you go.
Thank you, Moderator Wyszynski. And it's my privilege to present the FY27 budget for you for your consideration and the FY27-29 overview. I do thank all the residents of Brookline for the passage of the override. This PowerPoint reflects many frequently asked questions that we received over the past months and hopefully will convey to you the hard work of the department to assure that the budget presented for your approval satisfies your expectation that we have met our fiduciary obligation to the residents of the town and to our students. Next slide, please. I'm not sure who, are you doing it? Okay, great, thanks. So annual cost drivers are typical for any school year, and they are the same for here. Driven by student enrollment, staffing, and student special services. So in our endeavor in looking at the budget, we really focused on efficiencies, the opportunity to reorganize, to restore, if necessary, previously reduced expenses or positions. Next slide, please. This is our enrollment projection through FY25 to 34. And as you note, as you move on the bottom line from left to right, that we are experiencing a slow decline. At the steepest decline will be about 900 students below where we were in FY 2020, but then it's projected to actually increase starting in FY 28. And so you see that it's going down, but it's going to go back up. So we have to be mindful about maintaining our infrastructure as we go through that. Our investment in the experience of staff is not something that you can retrieve, so it's something that we keep in mind as we look at reductions. Next slide, please. Frequently asked question was, if your enrollment is going down, why aren't the FTEs going down as fast? And actually, our enrollment, as it has shifted, proportionately, our FTE has also, so the staff FTE has also shifted in proportion to that enrollment. So we actually, staffing will be roughly proportional to pre-pandemic levels for FY27. But I want to note to you, as was alluded by previous speakers. Next slide, please. While the FTE is proportional to the enrollment, it has shifted in its composition. If you look in the box, you see that we have had a net change since the last override, increases in special education and in BEEP, our early childhood program. And then we've had negative numbers in general education, building staff, and district-wide, which is at the district level offices. So while the numbers have stayed proportionate, the composition has shifted dramatically over the last 3 years. Next slide, please. This gives you a picture of the range of the budgets from FY23 to the projection at FY27. And so we are currently in FY26, and you can see our budget numbers there. And as noted, for next year, $149.8 million for FY27. That is a percent increase of 4.91%. But I invite you to look at the percent increases over that line and how we have really worked hard to find efficiencies to keep those in line as much as possible. That 4.9% increase refers to the circuit breaker problem that was addressed earlier by the advisory chair. A 1.9 million structural deficit is included in the budget for FY27. So with the passage of the override, that structural deficit is resolved. We're not going to have to carry it forward. And that gives us capacity to address some of the other concerns that were raised tonight. Next slide, please. In order for us to get to FY27, we did have to make a lot of reductions in the budget. So a net reduction of 22.1 FTEs, and the chart on the right gives you an overall picture of what those reductions entailed. We looked at our enrollment. We did spot reductions as much as possible. If we had to reduce class sections across our schools, we also looked at caseloads for special education and reduced those accordingly where possible. We exercised spot reductions to be able to save programs. And so it was, we went as line by line, school by school, grade by grade. We also reduced further in our expenses, and we also considered and have adopted some revenue generation, including tuitioning in students in some of our specialized programs starting next year, and also raising the tuition cost for BEEP and also for material fee. Next slide, please. But as we reduced our non-salary expenses, we are now at an 87.5% salary versus 12.5% non-salary. The most important investment in the budget is in the staff. The most important thing happening in the schools is that direct interaction between educator and student. So when we reviewed our budget lines and we created this budget, we saved as much as possible direct service to students, student-facing staff. But where we are now, we are at a very stringent ratio. At 12.5% non-salary expenses, that comprises mostly of tuition, special ed tuition, transportation, food service, and services. And so most of it there isn't really much more room to cut from those non-salary expenses. Reductions moving forward, if we had to make them, would have come out of the staffing. And so we are very grateful for the passage of the override. Next slide, please. Just checking, he's keeping up with me. So this actually shows how we compare to other districts. The other districts are the red line and we are the blue line. And this is about total special education costs. So this is a major driver of the budget, but we are doing our best to maintain efficiency in those expenses. And how we compare to other districts, we're doing well. Next slide, please. You may understand that we try to keep all our students in district as much as possible, but sometimes a student's needs do need to be met by sending students out of district. And this is how we compare in the percent of students we send out of district. So you can see that our percentage is very low. We are comparing favorably to our peer districts. This also reflects the long-term investment Brookline has made in its in-district programming to keep students in district without having to send them out. And so all this work to get to our efficiencies, maintaining our programs for our students, keeping our staffing that are student-facing as much as possible. And this brings us to the next slide. That was a very large number that you approved for us. And so the 17.94 million for schools is going to be phased in over each of the next years. And so that was a question that was asked before. And yes, for the schools, we'll be phasing it over the next few fiscal years. Next slide, please. This is the chart you saw earlier. And again, it's just to highlight that where our initial funding gap was. So this is the budget that we presented after all the work. And then you can also see that the town didn't have capacity to cover those increases. And so the funding gap is being addressed by the override. So the override number, again, on the bottom line, 17.9 million, and how those monies are being distributed, phased in over the next 3 years. And very importantly, the FY27 budget incorporates the structural deficit reflected in the circuit breaker funds, and so that is resolved. That is no longer being carried forward, right? That has been a structural deficit for the last few years, so this is very good news. Next slide, please. This just highlights the allocation for FY27 and also the estimated allocations for FY28 and 29. Next slide, please. There's a lot of numbers on this, but this is because I know you're going to be able to access the presentation later, and you can look at these more closely later. Again, the FY27 budget resolves 1.9 million structural deficit. Earlier it was noted the concern about maintaining building maintenance. I do want to assure you that annually the building maintenance is increased by 2.5%, and that is reflected in the budget. There was a request for an additional $310,000, and I will say to you that in our efforts to save what we could and focusing on staff that were delivering direct service to students, we couldn't accommodate that request, but we're hoping in the coming year to find other one-time funding. This is definitely front of mind in what we will try to address. But I do want to assure you that the annual increase has been incorporated, and so this is additional monies that the building department is seeking. Next slide, please. I think it's fair to say that that we made the headlines in the last year in terms of where school finances and management was, and so when you make the headlines, you get invited to a lot of audits. And so, but I am pleased to say, yes, another call, another audit. And so the FY25 IDA grant was audited by DESE. They did an extensive review, and they concluded with no findings or need for corrective action. It's very unusual to actually go through an audit to have no corrective action recommendations, so I'm very pleased to report that. We also got invited for an MTRS audit. They concluded with no findings or need for corrective action. We also got invited for a district curriculum review completed, and that's been completed. When they called in the summer, I asked if they could wait a year, and they said no. So we went through it, and we're waiting for the final report. But it was a lot of things for a new leadership team to undertake in the year, and so we got through, and I'm glad the outcomes have been good. I'm very pleased to report in our third quarter report, which covers January, February, March, the 1.9 structural deficit carried forward to FY26 had been narrowed to $525,639 and projected for further closure by the end of this fiscal year. And you might say, well, then why did you need to get the override to resolve that? These are one-time funds that we were able to access to address that deficit, and actually over time, one-time funds become less and less available, and so this was a concern and decreased our capacity to be reflective and being able to fund other things that also deserve funding. So, but our quarterly report shows that things are all going well. We are within budget and actually addressing that structural deficit in this year. Next slide, please. I just want to note our ongoing focus on our town-school partnership collaboration. The MOA between the town and schools from the spring 2025 CLA findings have been satisfied, but for Munis, and we're working on that. We also adopted many of the ERSC recommendations in the development of the FY27 budget, so thank you to those members that worked hard about different ways of thinking that we could consider. And then we will respond to the additional ERSE recommendations for future consideration and an additional MOA regarding shared costs. Next slide, please. We are still facing leadership changes. Our school committee members have changed. We will be welcoming a new Deputy Superintendent of Administration and Finance. Our current Deputy Superintendent is in the audience, Dr. Susan Givens. She'll be retiring at the end of this year. Many, many thanks to her. Our Uncle School Principal is retiring. We have a new one coming on board. Director of Data and Systems, we're in the process of interviewing. Director of Human Resources has just said yes. So we're in the process of executing a contract. I hope I didn't jinx that. But Director of Steps to Success, we are posting and looking for. And then our longtime coordinator of nursing, she is retiring this year. I only got to overlap with her a little bit, but she's great. So thank you for that. And then next slide, please. Looking forward to thinking strategically about the future, a vision of a learner, preparing all students for the future, settling outstanding contracts currently in negotiation, expanding the implementation of the literacy curriculum, launching a review of our science and technology curriculum. We're launching a seal of illiteracy, which honors students who master other than their native language, whether it be English or French. Reviewing our school models to improve delivery of service, use of technology in our schools, and ensuring student academic prowess and all-around well-being. Next slide, please. Final slide. Thank you. Thank you for passing the override. The members of the school committee I worked with this past year, and to the new ones I will work with in the coming year. To the chair and members of the select board, to the members of the advisory committee, to all of you that are here, to the residents of Brookline, to my town colleagues, and to my leadership team. And again, thank you to Susan Givens and congratulations on her retirement. And I thank you to Town Administrator Chaz Carey.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we're now ready to proceed to considering the budget. And as I said, I'm going to be going through each of the items. And if you have questions or comments, you can come up to the microphones. When we start getting to the departmental budgets, I have a couple of people who have signed up, and I will recognize them first. So here we go. You can follow along on page 6 of Supplement 1. I announced earlier page 8, but it's really page 6 where it begins. Okay, so the first thing is the conditions of appropriation, including transfers among appropriations, procurement contracts and leases, allocation of salary adjustments, stipend salaries of elected officials, which will be a topic of discussion tomorrow. Vacant positions, the Gulf Enterprise Fund, Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, and then revolving funds, which is Park and Rec. They're listed on page 10. Schoolhouse maintenance and repair, the snow and ice budget, and interfund transfers. Opioid funds, that's from some funds from some lawsuits. Budgetary reporting, and that's it for the special appropriations. If you want to speak, Mr. Davis, come to a microphone. There used to be a microphone over there, no more.
Jonathan Davis, Precinct 17. A comment about snow and ice. Really, this is for Department of Public Works. I say this almost every year. The Center Street, on the Center Street large lot, which is the east lot on Center Street, the sidewalk that on Center Street that abuts the large lot is almost every year not fully plowed, and this is important because it is a major walkway particularly for the elderly who are going from elderly housing, senior housing, at the other end of Center Street heading down towards Coolidge Corner. So I do hope that this will become something that will be important on the snow and ice removal budget in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take that as a comment that doesn't require a response at this time. Okay, so now we're ready for the special appropriations. And that's starting on page 12. And explanations of these appropriations are contained in the advisory committee report and may answer many of the questions you might have. So here we go. Item 35 is $350,000 for the rehabilitation of town buildings. Item 36, $100,000 for technology infrastructure. Item 37, $195,000 for the police department's radio system. Item 38, $100,000 for traffic calming. Item 39, $50,000 for bike access improvements. Yes, sir. Tell us who you are.
Yes, Tommy Rankus, Precinct 13. I have a question about, it's actually three things: the traffic calming, road repair, and sidewalk repair. I didn't see anything mention crosswalks, and I just want to make sure those are contemplated in one of those buckets.
I'll turn it over to Ms. Shute, Commissioner Shute.
Good evening, Erin Chute, Commissioner of Public Works. Yes, we replace and repair ramps with both the sidewalk maintenance contract. We also do that as part of our roadway rehabilitation as well when we're rehabilitating roads, and it is often a component of some of our Vision Zero work as well. So you may see ramp work happening in any of those buckets, and we replaced approximately 58 last year, and we're replacing detectable warning panels along Beacon Street now with a grant from the state.
Thank you.
Mr. Richmond?
Speaking for 40.
Okay. 39? Yeah. I'm sorry.
Mark Lowenstein, Precinct 12. A question about the $100,000 allocation for wayfinding.
Wayfinding. We're not there yet.
Oh, we're not there yet. I thought we were. Okay.
It's not funded. It's not in the budget. Is that correct? It's been removed.
Oh, it's been removed. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm ready to move on. Okay. Item 40. I'm told item 39.
No, sorry, this is one of the previous items.
Okay.
The technology improvements.
Sure, go for it. Who you are?
My name is Connor Sheehan, Precinct 10, and my name is Connor Sheehan, Precinct 10. My curiosity is, what AI tooling is the town taking on, if any?
And who would like to answer that? Ms. Yang?
And if I can add to that question, I'd like to know what data is being fed into it.
Good evening. Hi, Feng Yang, Chief Information Officer, Information Technology Department. Thank you for the question. AI certainly is a revolutionary technology that we're paying.
Speak into the mic.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. I'll keep it close. Okay. All right, well, start from the beginning. Feng Yang, Chief Information Officer, Information Technology Department. Thank you for the question. AI certainly is a revolutionary technology we're paying close attention to. We've started 2 or 3 years ago with looking at the risks of AI. We've developed our policy, Gen AI policy, and it was approved by the Select Board last summer with the help of our Mr. Rubenstein. Thank you very much. Yeah. And we have also worked on, because there's a huge, as you all understand, that the risk of AI in terms of cybersecurity. So we have been working on, training employees on how to identify AI-generated deepfake, AI-generated, a lot of phishing email, as you are experiencing, very sophisticated email phishing email attacks. And we have our vendor security questionnaire so that we can vet.
Sorry.
Oh, have we lost the sound?
Hold on.
Okay.
On the sound online. We can, as I said earlier, we can go without video. Going without sound is a lot more difficult. Just give me the bat signal when we're ready. How we doing? Testing, 1, 2, 3, no. Testing, 1, 2, 3. We getting there? Are we close? This is time for me to do a dance. Yeah, you know me, John.
I didn't know it took this long. Which one are you waiting for?
That it's going to be justifying the $1 million that we're going to be spending on design.
Yeah, that's fair. imagine that many of those projects just like can't happen without the design phase. So it's like all part of the same.
Oh, sure. I mean, well, you have to do design.
Yeah.
It seems like $1 million to design the Lincoln School, redesign the Lincoln School grant.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It seems like the firm that gets that at the project.
He's doing well.
Doing pretty well.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know how many millions of dollars you have spent in the ice rink for design work.
Oh my God, it's never gonna happen. We're working at Griggs Park. We've been working on the design phase for that for a year and a half. And like the progress from one meeting to the next 6 months later just feels very small. All in all, I'm just like, we're rehashing the same debates over.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Okay, we are back in business. Ms. Young, please continue and hopefully conclude.
Okay, I will be quick. It must be the magic word AI was mentioned. Okay, so long story short, that we have embarked on this journey. We have tried to build security in mind, but we also want to leverage AI. So we have a few test groups going on with our existing platforms. And also we're looking at other tools. So if you're interested in knowing more, please come reach out to us. And if anybody's interested in helping the town, then come and reach out to me, and I'd love to talk more about it.
Sorry, the question was, are there any town departments right now that are feeding our data into AI systems? And if so, which ones?
I thought you were asking about what AI toolings we're using.
And what data?
Yeah. So we're currently not feeding any data into, one of the platforms we're testing is Microsoft Copilot.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not, web search is not enabled, so it's only contained in our tenant. So we're very careful with security because there's a lot of risks. So we have that in mind. We have a lot of that built in, and we'll continue to build in. So we want to use the tool, but we want to use it securely. So.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for 39 or below? There's one here. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Bettina Neuerfeind. I'm a town meeting member for Precinct 1, and I believe this is item 39 on bicycle safety improvements, although it was labeled 38 too.
Did I call it 38? It's 39. Bicycle, $50,000 bicycle access improvements.
Exactly.
Yes.
So my question is for the Department of Public Works on the 2026 Harvard Street safety improvements. There had been a situation in the spring where the Transportation Board, I think, was not involved in the planning of those improvements.
Yeah, we're going to get to that with the street rehab. But
Okay.
ask the question.
I'm happy to take my answer then, but I guess my
Okay,
my
ask the
question is,
question and we'll.
Yeah, I appreciate that there's been a budget amendment made to
Right.
prevent that sort of situation from occurring in the future, but I was hoping we could get an update on what changes are proposed for the improvements that are
Let's do it
in
at
the
that
works.
point.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Fisher.
Hi, Shira Fisher, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 11. This is from previously 13D, Public Works Sanitation. It looks like between last year and this year, it went up by 1.5 million,
Whoa,
which is...
that's a departmental budget. We're
Oh.
not at departmental budgets yet.
Thank you.
We're at CIP items. Item 40, $200,000 for School Street pedestrian bicycle safety lighting. Mr. Richmond, so patiently waiting.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Clint Richmond, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 6. I had a question indirectly related to this. This summer, as part of the Pierce construction, I should have met, Precinct 6 includes School Street, and I'm a near abutter of this street. This street was closed for construction to all but local vehicles. And I was just wondering what the experience has been with that closure since it's a pretty major thoroughfare.
Ms. Shute, you want to take a shot at that?
Erin Chute, Commissioner of Public Works. So we did not get any specific traffic counts, or I don't have any at this point. School Street is considered an important north-south connection in that part of Brookline. We did have temporary closures through the installation of utilities and then partial closures for the Pierce School. I think that what we saw were localized impacts, detours, and certainly some backup in traffic. And those of you that maybe use that connection probably saw the backup most significantly on Aspinwall going on to St. Paul. So there certainly were impacts, and both the police and Public Works sent out traffic advisories whenever the street was closed, so folks could find alternate routes.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I thought it was a pretty successful project. I'm not hearing any sort of major flags around other than that. Would that be a fair assessment?
I don't have any counts or data on that, but I will say that School Street itself is going to be a complete street with pedestrian scale lighting and bike accommodations, safer crossings. So overall, we're really looking forward to the improvements on School Street.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're at item 41, and this is the item where it's $5,258,000, and this is for rehabilitation of streets, and it does have a new condition on it. One is to form a working group to integrate all of the town's various streets policies, and the other is to provide certain information to the Transportation Board. And I think this is the time where Ms. Neufein's question ought to be addressed. So, yeah. So how is this going to operate?
Erin Chute, Commissioner of Public Works. So the language that was discussed by multiple parties is going to enable the chair of the Transportation Board to establish a working group to pull together 4 really important policies that the town of Brookline has. It's our RAMP, which is our roadway asset preservation, maintenance, and management policy, the Vision Zero policy, which identifies the safety. It's our safety goals and high-risk locations, our complete streets policy, which guides larger multimodal corridor projects, and traffic calming, which addresses speed management and neighborhood safety concerns. I think specifically to the question asked earlier, the Department of Public Works was directed by the Select Board as one of their top priorities to improve the condition of the roads. And so a group was established with 2 Select Board members, Paul Warren and Michael Sandman, who had chaired Vision Zero, and the chair of the Transportation Board, to see how we could advance maintenance of the roads, which have been in sort of dire declining condition, and also continue to advance all of these other important initiatives with complete streets, Vision Zero, traffic calming throughout the town. And so we established this policy that, in essence, enabled us to do a conditions assessment using AI of all of the roads in town, also the sidewalks, and establish a numerical value that we then used a cost-benefit value assessment to determine the best and highest use of the town's dollars for maintenance. And the intent was to maintain our roads purely based on data and not politicize our roads, while also moving forward with prioritizing our complete streets, et cetera. So Harvard Street was moving forward as a maintenance project. It has holes. We've been patching it for the last 4 years. And through the Harvard Street project, we did incorporate multiple Vision Zero improvements. We have, we're daylighting intersections. We are adding bollards where there's frequently double parked vehicles, which make it unsafe for both pedestrians and cyclists. We are installing rapid flashing beacons at numerous crosswalks, and you'll see a significant improvement in terms of the paint, the lane lines, the bike lanes and crosswalks with buffers where we can paint them for the cyclists. So as we were moving forward, we were actually really proud of our plan. That backfired, and the cyclists really felt that there should be more. So this working group is going to help us really work in advance as we're doing maintenance and completes priorities and have a lot of clarity on what's moving forward and why and when. So we're hoping that this is really going to help us work together. Harvard Street needs to be maintained. It's in poor condition, and the longer we wait, it will be more expensive for the town and continue to degrade significantly.
Ms. Neufund?
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I guess the specific question I had is there an update on what specific improvements for the summer of this year will be included with the pavement work?
I think I provided that,
was
right?
That,
the
was
rapid
that everything
flashing,
that you were
yeah,
just
the
listing?
RFPs.
So that is for this summer and not for kind of like...
That's for now.
Perfect.
Yep, that's
Okay,
part
great.
of this
Thank
project. I'll also add that, so the Transportation Board is going to be, and this was part of when the Transportation Board adopted this policy in addition to updating Complete Streets, the Complete Streets policy as well, with an intent to prioritize all of those projects. But the concept of just changing paint to do parking protected bike lanes on Harvard is not that simple. And to do that without actually making some real changes in either signals, et cetera, there's going to be a significant impact on parking. The right turning lanes, if you think of Babcock Street, it's a major connection between Harvard and Com Ave. That is not an all-way stop for pedestrians, and so there would be some very unsafe situations of bikes and cars crossing. So looking at whatever our future improvements are is really going to take some careful thought so that we can make sure that it's safe for everybody.
Definitely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I hope you'll indulge me the opportunity. I wanted to speak to this when it came up.
So who are you, Mr. Fisher?
Oh, Andrew Fisher, town meeting member, precinct 13. My apologies.
You had asked to speak. I thought, if you wish to make a comment, please do.
Thank you. This is the same comment I would have made later, and it seemed timely to do it now. There was a concern, there was a compromise worked out as to the language of the condition of appropriation, so that there would be an assurance that opportunity to do things when they could be done and would happen. I think it was an attempt to resolve a communications problem. It's been resolved. I wanted to thank Marissa Vogt and Paul Warren and most of all Brian Kane for the work that was done to affect language that served the purpose of the amendment. I think we have resolved the problem, and like I said, thanks especially to Brian Kane for helping us get to a point where better communications will result. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hebert, or... Yeah.
I'm waiting for 46.
Okay, yeah.
My question actually might be...
And who you are?
Sorry, yes. Lee Heyman, Precinct 3. My question might actually be for the previous one or this one. We were talking about the school street safety. This question is actually on behalf of one of my constituents who's concerned about... I know that the bridge between the Pierce School and the playground is gone. It wasn't feasible. I understand why. But basically, when I look through the safety measures that are being put in place, like, can you speak in more depth? Because I think some of the parents are like really concerned that these kids are still going to have to cross a roadway to get to their playground.
Do you want to speak to the design, Dan? So there's a raised crossing that will be pedestrian actuated, so wide, broad crossing, and that's what the students will be using directly from the Pierce School into the Pierce School playground.
When you say pedestrian activated, that means specifically that like a kid,
Push button.
A kid, so like a kid can't just like we're going to expect the kids to remember to push that button all the time versus just like, I mean, not to propose design solutions, but we've got those flashing red lights over at St. Paul and Brown. Like it's a stop sign.
Oh, the rapid flashing beacon. Actually, let me look into that and I'll get back to you.
You know what I'm talking about? It's a stop sign with the flashing, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
I do, but I actually need to, I think that the design solution there is a rapid flashing beacon, but I need to double check.
Okay, that brings me some anxiety, I'll just say, because I don't see elementary school kids just doing that. They're going to want to get to the place. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is item 42, $539,000 for the rehabilitation of sidewalks. 43, $1 million for the temporary transfer station facility. Item 44, $800,000 for the Washington Street Rehabilitation and Complete Street Programs. Mr. Ananian.
See, Scott Nenian, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 10. I just wanted to, my understanding is that the grants for that Washington Street project stop at the intersection with Beacon and Washington, and we don't, originally we didn't have a plan for the area right in front of Driscoll School between the Washington Square and the Boston border. And I was wondering if we had an update. Are these funds for that portion, or are they still the earlier part of Washington Street?
Shoot, you're on the hot seat.
Yeah, sorry about that.
These funds are for the TIP-funded full Washington Street Complete Street Corridor project that we're working on with Mass DOT. That is scheduled for an FY 30-31 construction, but we have funding in place and a contract that's been awarded and executed with the same design contractor to continue that design and construction bid set for what we're calling sort of North Washington, so north of Beacon Street. So once we have that design, we will be coming back to town meeting with the funding to construct that portion.
Fantastic, thanks. Could I just ask roughly the time frame for that?
We're assuming that's going to be around the same time, so it may be a FY 30, 31 time frame.
When it comes time, I'm sure the school parents in that area will have opinions on that design, so I'd be happy to help organize that conversation. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Item 45, $145,000 for the Big Belly compacting stations. And item 46, $1,150,000 for the Sewell Athletic Fields. Mr. Hebert.
John Hebert, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 7. I have a couple of questions about 46 and 47, which we haven't quite gotten to yet.
Okay, so I'll announce 47 also, $970,000 New Lincoln School Grounds, so ask your questions.
Thank you. I'm constantly amazed at how much the town spends for design of renovation of fields and the like, and in this case, we're spending $1.15 million for the design of Sewell Athletic Fields and almost $1 million for the design of the new Lincoln School Grounds. So the question is if we can get some idea of what the estimate of what the cost of the actual work will be for those two projects.
Yeah, that's in the CIP charts, but if someone can address that? It's usually a percentage of the total project, yeah.
Good evening. My name is Millie Pradhan, Director of Parks and Open Space. So typically when we come up with the cost estimates for the design, it's around 20% of the construction cost that we project out. And this amount includes survey work, geotech work, fees for the consultants from concept through construction administration. So when the construction is being done, we need the designers and their consultants to oversee the project. So that's what it accounts for. For the actual construction cost of that, again, like I don't have the number right in front of me, but again, like you can imagine, 20% of that. But I can follow up with the exact number. Sorry, we do have the number here.
Melissa Goff is the numbers maven.
Okay, we have the numbers for Sewell. Sewell construction cost estimate is $5.75 million. And New Lincoln School grounds construction cost is $4.92 million.
And just a quick follow-up question. I'm curious to know if the design cost budget is ever comes under budget, and if you don't actually spend that amount of money for the design work.
Well, I can tell you that most of the time it comes over budget. Yes. And we are very fortunate for our engineering and transportation team that we have excellent project managers, engineers, like who help oversee the project, and that helps to keep the costs down. And a lot of times, so far I haven't seen over budget, but again, if there is any time like when it is under budget, then we find, we put that cost towards construction. And if there's still significant amount of money left, then, it does go back to the town general funds.
Great, thank you very much.
Mr. Oji?
Wadner Oje, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 15. I have a question going back to street rehabilitation, 43.
Yep.
I would like to know what are the level of cooperation between the town and the utility companies prior to paving the road, because I noticed on Boylston Street last year they repaved the road. Now there are a lot of activities cutting Boylston Street. I would like to know what the cooperation prior to paving the road, since we're doing Harvard Street right now, what exactly going on before
What a
repaving?
great question.
Oh, this is one of our frustrations. So Erin Chute, Commissioner of Public Works. So we meet with the utilities, National Grid, and Eversource every 2 weeks. They have our 5-year plan. We make adjustments with them. We also have their plan, because they also have their priorities in terms of service expansions. Oftentimes with National Grid, it's leak-prone pipe that they're lining or replacing. And so we provide them with our full plan. They go in and do their restoration work, and then we follow with our maintenance. That is how things are intended to work. But what will happen is National Grid will have priority 1 or 2 leaks, and they will then come out and need to service those emergencies. So even with the best laid plans, if they have grade 1 and 2 leaks, they have to go out and respond to those. So that's what you're seeing on Boylston Street, Route 9. That is a state road, but we worked with Mass DOT, saying that we were imploring them to resurface that road, but they're having the same challenges that we are in terms of doing maintenance on a roadway and then having those cuts come back in again. We do have what's called a 5-year moratorium, and so when utilities come in, we will have them, instead of doing just a trench restoration, they'll do curb-to-curb restoration on new roads. So we understand it's frustrating. We do a lot of planning, but what we find, other municipalities find, and the state finds as well, is we are sometimes just at the whim of these emergencies. And I'll say we have Hammond Street coming up with a road diet and full road restoration, and we've been working with National Grid to have them get in and do their system work on Hammond Street so that we hopefully can minimize their disruption once we finish that road.
One more.
All right, number 45, transition station remediation.
45 is Big Belly.
Transition, my number may be different. Transition station remediation.
Oh, the transfer station,
Yep.
that's
yeah, transfer
43.
Station. Yep. I have 45 on my book.
They were in the back of the room. Up, they ran out. Well, it's
Okay.
it's 43,
Okay, I'll ask the
45.
question.
It's the same number.
Okay. If we, it's showing that as erection of a temporary closed structure. So if we spend in $1 million in a temporary structure, what is that one gonna be converted to a permanent one? Or if not, how much material, whatever, how much we're gonna use from that temporary station to build a permanent one?
That's
Thank
a great question. Thank you. So the town has a very unique transfer station at our service facility off of Newton Street. And this past year, we were working with the building department on some needed maintenance upgrades to the building, and ultimately we noticed a significant defect in the floor that made it unsafe for us to operate in that building anymore. It's a floor that's over structure, and the building is from sort of circa 1950. And so what we're doing now is we're working with Mass DOT to build a temporary structure. We did get a reserve fund transfer to get started with our permitting and preliminary designs for that structure. It's around a 7,000 square foot building, and what that does is we actually bring in the town's trash into this facility. It's commingled with our contractor's trash, and then it is loaded and hauled off-site to a waste-to-energy transfer facility. So we really rely on this facility to consolidate our waste before it gets transferred. The structure itself, so when we say temporary, it actually has a shelf life of around 20 years. So we could be using this structure for a good period of time. And it's also a structure that sort of has the skeleton with the fabric on top of it that you often see. It's not fancy, but you might see for the storage of vehicles or salt. And so we can reuse this structure again to keep either for salt storage or also keep our equipment undercover. So it does have a useful life that we'll make sure to take advantage of.
Thank you. Moving ahead, item 48, $325,000 for the renovation of playground equipment, fields, and fencing. Item 49, $190,000 for the rehabilitation of town and school grounds. Item 50, $365,000 for the removal and replacement of trees. Mr. Lynn Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Sean Lynn Jones, Precinct 1, and also president of the Brookline Green Space Alliance. I have a couple of questions related to item 50, and they're questions about whether Brookline is spending enough, or is going to be spending enough on tree planting. And I'm asking these questions because Special Appropriation 50 is only $365,000. I know the Park and Recreation Commission, presumably with departmental input, requested $540,000, and last year it was $375,000 for the comparable item. The cost of tree services keeps going up, so I think it's fair to say, no matter how you look at it, this is a deep cut in real terms. And I also note that the Urban Forest Climate Resiliency Master Plan says that the town needs to plant 450 public trees per year. as part of an overall strategy to reach its goal of 49.1% tree canopy coverage by 2032. And according to the data in the financial plan, we've been averaging about 400 trees in recent years. Thus, I've got two closely related questions. First, how much needs to be appropriated annually in order to plant enough trees to meet the goals of Brookline's urban forest climate resiliency master plan? And if $365,000 is not enough to meet these goals, will the DPW be able to use additional funds from Community Preservation Act appropriations, CIP park renovation project funds, grants, and any other sources to achieve the goals of the urban forest master plan?
Mealy Pradhan, Director of Parks and Open Space. Thank you for your question, Sean. So I just want to start by saying that in order to achieve our tree planting goals outlined in Urban Forest Climate Resiliency Master Plan, which is a long name, the town really relies on a combination of multiple funding sources. And these include the forestry capital budget, which is what we have here in the special appropriation today. And in addition to that, we also really rely on our parks capital improvement projects. So for instance, today we have Sewell and New Lincoln, and each year we have at least one or two park improvement projects. So in addition to all of that, we also rely heavily on Community Preservation Act grants, which we're very fortunate that we have that source available. And we also really actively seek out for external grants to further supplement these efforts. And we really work closely with Sustainability and Natural Resources Division to find those grants and apply for those grants. So I can say that, for instance, for FY26, I did a quick calculation, and it's around 30% of our trees that we're going to be planting as our FY26 goals will be funded by park capital improvement projects and also CPA projects. So it's important to know that while $365,000 is allocated for forestry capital this year for FY27, it's only representing one portion of what our funding source for achieving our goals and really expanding our urban forests. And with combination of forestry capital and additional funding sources, we definitely feel confident that we're actively continuing to make progress to meeting our urban forestry goals. Does that answer your question, Sean?
Yes, thank you very much. I will look forward to seeing further assessments of our tree canopy, which I hope will be undertaken as part of the master plan ongoing efforts. So we know where we stand, and we know whether we need to increase our efforts to meet that goal by 2032. And of course, although it's not the CIP item, the private trees matter a lot too on private property. And it's good that the override passed so that there's funding to implement that bylaw, and a lot of people welcome that, and we'll see how it goes. And just to make absolutely clear, the Green Space Alliance supports this item and the other parks and open space items, regardless of my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 52, $3.2 million for the Strategic Solar Initiative, with no more than 10% of the balance of Phase 2 projects to be spent on consultant fees. Ms. Park?
Yeah, actually, this was for the tree replacement question.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yes, Susan Park, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 17. So my question is, do we have a partnership with the tree replacement opportunities when there are new developments? And there's, when lots and properties are torn down and new developments come in, is there a minimum of trees being replanted?
I don't know if that's a DPW thing, but, well, if you give it a shot.
Erin Chute, Commissioner of Public Works. Thank you, Susan, for the question. I can think of two ways in which I think we're partnering with developers around tree planting. So we have the tree preservation bylaw. So if there are removals, then they need to adhere to the requirements, which means either replanting on site if there are removals, or paying into the tree preservation fund. But specifically, we often work with developers ahead of really them going to get their permits to look at mitigation opportunities and where we might be able to plant trees. And it could be trees that are on site. It may be around, and the planning and community development job does a great job with this, if it's screening as it relates to abutters. But in public works, we're often looking at public space, streetscape, street trees, and opportunities to plant as much as we can. So we're often part of those projects, and we do that during site plan review.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I skipped 51, which is $300,000 for improvements to the Walnut Hills Cemetery. 53, $275,000 for HVAC equipment. Mr. Richmond?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Clint Richmond, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 6. I had the honor of bringing forward the warrant article in 2023 on environmentally preferable purchasing policy to avoid PFAS. And one of the largest purchases we make of concentrated PFAS is in refrigerants. So I wanted to ask the building department what they can tell us in terms of expectation around swapping out the fluorinated and PFAS refrigerants that are commonplace today. And I should also credit my colleagues Elisa Jonas and Jesse Hefter as co-petitioners on that article. But anyway, sort of forward-looking to avoid that kind of PFAS.
Mr. Simmons. And this actually may even
this is 53.
Cover 54, which is $280,000 for sustainability
Precisely,
enhancements.
and specifically I'm talking about carbon dioxide and propane and butane substitutes.
Well, good evening. Thank you for that comment.
And
my
you
name is Charlie
are
Simmons,
Mr. Simmons?
Director of Public Buildings. I started.
Charlie Simmons, Director.
Yes, we do and have been working with our engineers to look at other different fluids. We have been using Freon, which is the standard in the industry, but as you noted, we are going to propane and other different materials. I asked the engineers to look at what would be the most efficient and the best for us, keeping in mind the health and safety of people. The flip side is it's very expensive right now, and I have to balance the cost, but we are going to be eventually heading in that direction, I think, and Freon will someday be gone. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Item 55, $2.95 million for Town Hall HVAC electrification project. Ms. Thal, this is the item?
No, I need to go back to 51.
Okay, 51, Walnut Hill Cemetery.
Thank you. Carolyn Thal, Precinct 16. Sorry, I didn't have time to put my shoes back on. It looks like it's $300,000 for improvements to the Walnut Hill Cemetery. So this is kind of a double question. I believe a couple of years ago there was some conversation about removing trees from the Walnut Hill Cemetery. So that's a little bit related to this tree question and the need for planting trees. So I'd like to know a little bit more detail about what the planned improvements are, and also whether trees are going to be removed or perhaps added.
Mili Pradhan, Director of Parks and Open Space. Thank you for your question. As part of this roadway improvement work, we do not plan to remove any trees. It's really focused on improving the conditions of the existing roadways. Essentially, when we had done the assessment of the roadways a few years back, we had categorized the roadway into 4 different categories: very poor, fair condition, good to you don't have to do anything, right? So this is really focused on roadways that are going to be in poor condition. We're trying to make it better for the visitors of the cemetery.
Thank you.
Mr. Franco?
Mr. Moderator, Jim Franco, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 2. Going back to item 52, which I must have been asleep.
That's the Strategic Solar Initiative.
Can someone tell me what we're saving by making these investments in solar, either in percentage or dollars? And when will those savings begin to be meaningful for the town?
Who wants to take a crack at that one?
Hi, Alexandra Vecchio, Director of Sustainability and Natural Resources. I couldn't hear the beginning of your question. Can you just repeat it for me one more time, please?
Yes, so we're making these investments in solar. And can someone tell me, tell me, what this means in terms of savings percentage-wise or dollar-wise? When will these savings be meaningful? I know we want to get away from fossil fuel, but I'm assuming that there's going to be some savings eventually.
Yeah, that is absolutely the goal. So for the Strategic Solar Initiative, we're looking at rolling out this work over a long period of time. And so the payback on different projects varies. So for example, we're installing solar at Driscoll School right now, and we expect to pay back within 6 years on that project, and then we'll be net positive after that. So other projects, we would have a smaller installation, possibly a quarter of the size at Driscoll, and so we would see a longer payback period over those. And then the payback period also varies depending on the electricity usage. So all that to say, it's quite variable between project to project based off the scale and the scope, but the idea here is that we're saving millions of dollars over the entirety of these projects in utility costs and operating costs.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Hang on, we need the mic. Try it now.
All right, Jess Lavessar, Precinct 9. I was asked to ask on behalf of, line item 46.
46,
just to go back
what is
real
that?
quick.
That's Sewell Athletic Fields.
Yes.
Okay.
So on behalf of a lot of us who use Brookline Rec, participants for both kids, adults, just given how used the Cypress field is, do you know if there's a plan for overlights at the Sewell playground so that it could be used more?
Yeah, lights are a sensitive topic.
I'm aware.
Mealy Pradhan, Director of Parks and Open Space. As part of this capital improvement project, we do not have plans to put any lights in the project.
Okay, moving on. Item 56, 95,000 renovations to school and town facilities. 57, $215,000 for upgrades to energy conservation projects in town and school facilities. Item 58, $130,000 for upgrades to energy management systems in town and school facilities. Item 59, $700,000 for public building fire alarms. Item 60, $250,000 for improvements to life safety systems and building security in town and school facilities. Item 61, $1,793,047 for minor renovations, upgrades to school buildings as described in the advisory committee's mini CIP table found in this combined report, and to meet the appropriation transfer for $1.293047 million from Article 10, Section 14, Item 69 of the 2024 Annual Town Meeting. That was a mouthful. Item 62, $784,842 for expansion of classroom capacity limited to rental payments at Temple Obai Shalom and Temple Emeth. Item 63, and yeah.
Linda Roseman, Precinct 14. Could somebody explain what that means? A classroom expansion? What does that mean?
This is just payment for rental. This is BEEP facilities.
So to increase the rental space that we're renting?
It's not increasing the rental space. Tell me if I'm wrong. It's the rental payments for the space we've already contracted for.
Okay, thank you.
Am I Did I mistake? Okay, I said it. I'm getting the thumbs up, so that's it. Okay, the next 4 items are going to require separate votes because they're bonding authorizations. So I'm going to announce it. We'll see if we have any questions. Then we're going to do a vote. So the first one is $500,000 for stormwater improvements. Okay, so there's a motion to approve that, and a yes vote will approve it. We need a 2/3 vote to approve the bonding. So, ready? Okay, drop the vote. Motion passes 238-03. Next item is item 64, $2 million for water system improvements. This too is a bonding item, so we're going to need a vote. So the motion is to approve item 64. We need a 2/3 vote. You ready? Drop the vote. Motion passes 249-03. Next item also is a bonding item, and it needs a vote. And the item is 65, $3 million for waste water system improvements. There's motion to approve it. Yes vote is to approve it. No is you don't want to improve our sewer system. So let's drop the vote. I guess I shouldn't have put my finger on the scale like that. Vote passes, motion passes 250-03, and that's the one I put my finger on the scale and it got the highest vote count. Yes. We got another one, and this is $3.2 million for improvements to the Evelyn Corraine Aquatic Center's filtration system. Just a Scrivener's addition. Include the word "for" before the word "improvements." And the motion is motion to approve it, and a yes is to improve the filtration system, and no is not to. We're ready for a vote? Drop the vote. We need a 2/3 vote again, because we're going to borrow money to do this. Motion. Hello. Oh. Okay, motion passed 50-03. Item 67 is a bonding vote again, $2 million for building envelope fenestration repairs to town and school facilities. Mr. Ananian.
Hello, Steve Scott-Ananian, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 10. Could I ask for a Scrivener's correction on selectmen to select board?
Where is that? Oh, yeah, look at that.
Thank you.
And it's in 67, it's in the middle of the paragraph. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines up from the bottom. Mr. Kaufman's got it.
I just want to credit Marissa Vogt for finding that.
And I'm sure bond counsel will approve that change, because bond counsel has worked on all these languages for the bonding, and I'm seeing yes from town council. Okay, we ready for the vote? The yes is to approve it. No is not to approve it. So drop the vote. We have one more of these. Motion passes 245-3-3. And the last one is $2 million for building roof repairs for town and school facilities. This one is another bonding vote. The motion to approve it, a yes is to approve the roof repairs, and a no is not to, and to have our buildings have leaks, I guess. I put my finger, oh, I did it again. Let's drop the vote. I'm going to have to be careful. Make sure I don't do that with anything controversial. Motion passes 241-13. Mr. Richmond?
Clint Richmond, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 6. I was wondering about with roofing repairs, whether we have any standards around making them reflective or otherwise to assist in cooling or those sort of things.
Anyone want to take a shot at that? Mr. Simmons again, you're on the hot seat.
I would just say, Mr. Moderator, we didn't really announce those as discussions. I mean, people went up, but we went straight to the vote, so next time. But anyway.
I'm sorry.
Charlie Simmons, Director of Public Buildings, yes, and we have pretty much decided to put white roofs, PVC roofs on all of our buildings going forward to help with cooling.
Okay. And now we've covered all of our special appropriations, CIP, and we're down to free cash, and this is cash that's, well, it's neither free nor it's cash, it's money that from prior budget that is then allocated according to town policies, as you see here. And that concludes everything except for the operating budgets. I'm going to start, and then we'll hit the next budget that hits beyond 10:30. Then I'll take a motion to adjourn. So we're now at the operating budgets. And the first one up is the select board budget. And because there are some issues that some have raised that affect either the select board budget, which includes the town administrator's office, and the legal services department, I'm going to announce those two budgets as a group. So if you have questions about select board and legal services, and two folks have signed up. Mr. Toffel has signed up for a question with legal services. Yeah.
Good evening, Mike Toffel, Precinct 8. Just a question on the legal service budget. And I guess this would perhaps be to town council, did you request sufficient budget for your department to respond to public record requests to meet deadlines specified by state law? And if not, why not? And if so, did your budget request get approved?
Mr. Callanan.
Good evening, Joe Callanan, Town Council. So for Town Council's portion
we need the mic.
So for Town Council's portion of enforcing the public records law, we have sufficient capacity, but you have to understand this is a decentralized process. So we only play a small portion of responding to public records requests. Most public records requests are handled by the departments. We are only involved if there's questions by those departmental record access officers or there's an appeal to the supervisor's office. So I don't think all departments have sufficient capacity to respond to public records, but the town council's office does.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill has signed up and has asked for 4 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Darnell O'Neill Sr., and I stand here as a 5th-term town meeting member from Precinct 4. I have served on the advisory committee since 2020, and I'm a father of 4. Tonight, I come before you as a resident, a father, a servant of this body, to speak about our executive branch, the legal department's budget. Specifically, the $31,000 recommended to go to the reserve fund. Right now, as you heard, that money is being used for outside counsel and what I see as baseless, expensive, terrifying investigations. Funds that could be poured back into the very soil and soul of our beloved town. I ask you to reflect on what $31,000 spent on outside counsel, who to me bore the appearance of a conflict, means. Reflect on the fact that our administration paid that money to investigate your peers, labeling them as felons, for doing what we're supposed to do as elected officials. Ask yourself, what does it mean when the executive branch retaliates against the legislative branch? I can tell you what it means, at least from my lived experience here as a legislator in the town of Brookline, Massachusetts. Some years ago, I worked for the DPW. On the lunch break, I stopped home. Frank Farlow from PAX was, God rest his soul, Frank Farlow from PAX was in my living room with my mother and my brother. Frank was urging me to run for town meeting at the time. My brother, who worked for the water department, said, no, don't do it. You know, my brother warned me because he feared retribution. He feared what the administration might do. But my mother said, son, don't worry about that job. We need you to run. So we're heard here in this community as well. Do you understand me? I obviously understood, and I ran, I won, Shortly after I sat in this room, I prayed. I said, God, grant us the serenity to accept what we cannot change, courage to change things what we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That was around my first term, my first time at the microphone, my first stand against a proposal from the executive branch to spend money, unnecessary money, on a footbridge over Route 9. I recommended the money go back to the Highway Sanitation Department for the streets and sidewalk repairs. I did what I believed was right, but the executive branch did not see it that way. I was moved to the night shift. After struggling to return to days, I resigned and sought healing at the Brookline Mental Health Center. A few years later, still qualified to work for the DPW. I tried again, but the doors were shut. I was blackballed. Again, still a town meeting member. I did what I thought was right, but the executive branch didn't see it that way, like I said. And, being blackballed, I applied for the Boston DPW, using my brother's address, and they hired me. When they discovered I lived in Brookline, I was fired. I worked odd jobs, church sexton, moving company, PCA for my sister, until I found my calling as a CNA at Spalding Rehab Hospital, and I've been there about 11 years in a pulmonary. Sorry, this is a little emotional for me. So, I'm asking you here to accept the recommendation from the advisory committee and the select board to transfer that $31,000 to the reserve fund. Anyone who needs access to that, school committee, to town, can always go to the reserve fund, to the advisory committee and ask for a reserve fund transfer. I'm going to close. It's been a long time. I've been holding this in to say this to this body. You never know when the last time you're going to have to stand up, speak up, and represent your constituents, even if it costs you dearly, even if it's going to impact your life personally. This is what we're elected to do. So, lastly, please, with all faith and conviction, can you join the advisory committee, the select board, myself, and transfer that money, that $31,000, to the reserve fund? Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll note there's no alternate motion. When the budget is voted, it will include that. So the legal services budget was proposals for $1,148,999, and the select board budget is $1,075,284. It's now approximately 10:30, and I'll take a motion to adjourn until tomorrow, and we'll finish up the rest of the budget. Okay, let's drop the motion to adjourn, which I didn't give you a slide for motion to adjourn. It's okay, okay. So yes is to adjourn, no is not to adjourn, and we'll continue. Motion passes 202-33-5. We'll see you tomorrow at 7.
When I came in, open arms. Open arms. I felt the love. I felt the communication. I just felt the passion. And I love it here. They welcome me.
This is a heartbeat, you know? You got real people here. They're empowered. People take agency. They do something creative and it gets rewarded. And it just grows and it's infectious. So I love that part about here. Like I come in here and I get energized, you know.
I feel comfortable when I'm here. I feel like, I want to say like a second home situation, but like, I feel like I can do everything that I want to do here and feel confident in every single thing. And if I have any questions, I'm not scared to ask them at all. And I haven't exactly had a place like that besides, you know, my own house. A part of me had to be locked away to be able to survive high school, and then Big was letting me open up those doors that I haven't been able to open up in a while.
My favorite thing about Big is probably the staff. Without them, I would not be where I am today. When I originally started out, I was a very shy kid. Back in my freshman year, I would hate talking to people, I would hate confrontation. I would hate talking to teachers. With this job, I had to be loud. I had to be confident in just my own skin.
There's always this synergy and collaboration that this great environment creates.
Big, at least for me, has been like, you have a place to be creative, just do it, basically. And now that's also like part of the reason why I keep coming back, because that creative flow just keeps coming back whenever I'm here. I've been able to push my own boundaries and talk to people a lot more. I've been able to apply that with my job that I have at my college, with the new friends I've had to make on a daily basis at my new school. And it has honestly like helped me a lot, especially with talking to like professors, because I can talk to adults a lot easier now too.
I have grown to motivate myself even more. This is what I want to do. And Big helped me to find what I really wanted to do.
I think I've grown in the way of how I talk to others about film, in how I see film, and I've learned how to bring people together.
I feel like 2026 is going to be good, and we're all going to just increase our collaboration and friendships.